My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system, which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only, and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes, and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. All right, this is the entity that's maintaining plane activity. It's currently engineered light, relevant positioning, audible activity with the people of the state who are also stalking, crossing path. That's pacing while they're on the roads and the highways. And then stalking in the sky space right here, flying over 325 West G Street. It's 1:05, 5 minutes earlier at 1 a.m. Louder activity, that's a whistling sound. The entity met roaring, loud plane activity. Again, mimicking what is, as the entity engages in a poor demonic imitation of a fake sun. It's a poor imitation of a plane takeoff right over this house, where the entity is doing so. This is 325 West G Street, where there is no planes that are hovering from 2500 Airport Drive or 2900 Airport Drive and rising in elevation at this location. This is the context that this is also where the entity is engaged in monitoring with the people of the state. The people of the state are stalking, and so is the city of Ontario, and doing so at 1 o'clock in the morning, where the Ontario International Airport is not maintaining any flights, where you're at this elevation at the volume level that the entity is varying at. This is a whistle with regard to, again, what is roaring plane activity 5 minutes ago, while the entity is maintaining aerial surveillance. Stalking with the same Ontario Police Department. All right, that's the city of Ontario, gang stalking by planes and helicopters, and the population of demons, many of whom I documented on El Morado, on Bonita, and on H Street in San Antonio, where the people of the state are targeting me, specifically knowing who I am, while they surround with the pattern of conduct in concert with the city of Ontario, using planes and helicopters, deviating from any plane takeoff where where you're headed to your destination from the airport. The entity is deviating by flying over 325 West G Street to be in alignment to me, where the entity is doing so in that specific environment. Plane activity, helicopter activity is part of that specific environment where the government is monitoring, and the government's monitoring with the people of the state. Okay, like I've documented. And the entity is doing so as the city of Ontario, and every gang stalking resident is engaging in that. It is currently 1:06 a.m. where the entity is concentrating plane activity right here. This is where they're taking off right here. And this is that P.O.C. where Ontario police are gang stalking, as I documented last night, which is July 1st, 2025, following me around while I documented the license plates and the house addresses of the people of the state who are gang stalking by residents, just like 325 West G Street is, while the people of the state are facilitating venue where the government's engaging in surveillance. And you are stalking in the path when you're living in the specific environment, which is exactly what this is. This is P.O.C. That's not a takeoff. That's stalking. That's stalking. You can see them right here, rising in elevation. That's Laurel. Stalking, flying in relevant position. There's no takeoffs over here at 325 West G Street. That's amplified audible activity. That's demonic activity. Demonic audible activity, amplification, while a demon is flying a plane and the sound is not connected to the plane that you see. And there's no takeoff from Laurel right here, rising in elevation, especially from 2500 Airport. I just want to be clear, what the Ontario Police Department and what the Ontario International Airport are demonstrating is that the federal government is not engaging in any investigation regarding federal group stalking, monitoring, gang stalking, targeting by the state that is conspired with Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, the people of the state, and the corrupt court, maintaining a criminal means of stealing property, a secret conservatorship about secret property that belongs to me. The federal government is not investigating the entity that's obviously stalking and targeting, in conformity to what I already have published on the internet. On the internet, where the same federal government that is being exposed for gang stalking via the state of California is also stealing that intellectual property. It's being published on YouTube while the same government is suppressing it and stealing it and representing it as their own, as its own. This is what the entity has been profiting from, stealing my property. There's no investigation while the Ontario Police Department just engaged in that wealth of evidence, flying over the top of my head repeatedly. You're not doing that in front of the federal government that's investigating you. You're not doing that with regard to Tracy Banks, who's trying to make it look like she's not targeting with the Ontario Police Department, while they're clearly targeting every day and night at the Starbucks under a fake sun. The entity is not engaging in any investigation. The federal government is engaged in targeting. The federal government targets American citizens. The federal government did it through the unsophisticated imbeciles of the city of Ontario, who are doing so, and it's sponsored by the federal government, who are not investigating anything. They are sitting around waiting for witchcraft to take my life, and it's not going to happen. They're sitting around watching me sleep outside, while they're gang stalking and watching the city of Ontario engage in ongoing targeting, while the federal government is dragging its feet, being forced to expose its own criminal conduct that it practices in this country. And it's demonic. It's relevant to surveillance that the federal government is engaging in. The entity is doing so while stealing my property, trying to steal my real property, my intellectual property, my personal property, and doing so while there's no investigation of the city of Ontario. This is why you have that bold engagement and flying in circles all over my head, all over the city of Ontario. The federal government is not investigating the Ontario Police Department while they're blatantly engaging in criminal conduct that I'm also publishing on the internet. That intellectual property that's incriminating is the same evidence that this entity, the federal government, is stealing and profiting from. This is why Jason Isaac Fields is engaging in that, and Tracy Banks is still engaging in it. Guess who engaged in kidnapping and doing so with the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center? That was the federal government that's gang stalking me right now. And they engaged in kidnapping with through the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, thinking that that was going to be the ribbon on the box to seal it with regard to criminally defaming me. And that didn't work. And the federal government is still engaging in targeting me via the demons of the city of Ontario, including Tracy Banks, including Jason Isaac Fields. Those two demons are going to federal prison. But this is exposing the federal government. The Ontario police is gang stalking, the city of Ontario is gang stalking because the federal government is still targeting and has not interfered with its own criminal pattern of conduct that I have exposed. That's what's relevant about a clear deviation from any sort of remotely close iteration of taking off from an airport. That was amplified audible activity, was demonic. It had nothing to do with the plane that you saw, and there's no plane taking off, rising in elevation right here at Laurel. These demons are already stalking with light. You already know that. This is P.O.C. That's impossible light. That's not coming from your headlights. This is what the federal government's engaging in with the corrupt population. California's engaged in gang stalking, and I've documented it in multiple counties. The reason why in 2025, as of right now, I'm sleeping outside is because the federal government is the one that's trying to obstruct justice. The federal government, who put Tracy Banks, who was helping Tracy Banks target me. You're not just going to put Tracy Banks in federal prison. She's not targeting by myself. Those corrupt courts, this is a corrupt system. Those corrupt attorneys, the people of the state that are corrupt, this is what the federal government practices in this country. Tracy Banks couldn't have done it without the federal government. The federal government that's permitting the city of Ontario gang stalking me via the demons of the city of Ontario. They are not heroes. They're not investigating anything. And this is exposing the United States government that is engaged in domestic terrorism. This is P.O.C. This is directly relevant to what Jason Isaac Fields has conspired against me with via the U.S. government, the federal government, that targeted me and thought that they were going to be able to discard me by falsely depicting my character. But the witchcraft didn't result in my death. It's not working, and I'm not going to die by witchcraft. The entity wants to, in other words, kill you without having to lay any hands on you. You just mysteriously die because the entity is practicing witchcraft and it doesn't work. The voodoo, the black magic, the spell work, it doesn't work. While they're engaging in the demonic system of gang stalking with evidence, tangible evidence of them clearly targeting me, which that evidence is my intellectual property that they're also stealing, suppressing it on YouTube and stealing and misrepresenting it as their own. This is what the federal government has permitted Tracy Banks, who they know is already targeting. The entity has conspired with Tracy Banks to steal from me while gang stalking me at the same time. This is not an investigation. This is going to be exposure of the federal government. And when I do get justice, it's not going to be the federal government that's getting a round of applause from me with regard to rescuing me or being a hero. This is exposing the United States government. The imbeciles in the city of Ontario, the state of California, have exposed what the federal government is doing throughout this country. This is P.O.C. It is currently 1:50 a.m. Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison. This is P.O.C. All right, it is currently July 2nd, 2025. It's 2:05 a.m. Documenting the entity that is obsessively monitoring. This is pursuant to stalking. This is surveillance. And this is not new as of my documentation in 2025 either. And it's not a new development with regard to the start of my documentation in 2018. The United States government's engaged in criminal surveillance. It's criminal because it's unconstitutional. And it's also what is constitutionally recognized as illegitimate government conduct. It's an illegitimate government interest to keep American citizens under surveillance, like the United States government is doing. And amongst the surveillance system, the entity engages in this targeting system, gang stalking, targeting specific American citizens who represent a threat to Satan's system that is in operation, and present what is a threat to interrupting it in the way that I was minding my business. The entity started targeting me, and that's what prompted my attention to document it. And then you have the birth of the P.O.C, which is revealing a lot of relevant information that American citizens need to know about, including the fact of demonic activity, the fact of criminal surveillance, the fact that the surveillance system is demonic, and it's happening in an environment that is supernatural, i.e. demonic. And the entity is engaging in what is targeting in real time. Like the video that you just heard. This is relevant to the federal government that's not engaging in an investigation of itself, knowing exactly what the federal government is doing and what the federal government's been doing for decades. And what's relevant is that the entity wants to blame Tracy Banks, would like to blame Jason Isaac Fields even for engaging in what is targeting me and based on lies and whatnot that Tracy Banks has told. Tracy Banks doesn't have to tell any lies about my character about being mentally ill, doesn't have to tell any lies about my character regarding medication, doesn't have to tell any lies about my character about being a drug addict or being somebody that's selling my body on OnlyFans. The entity's been engaged in surveillance. And so the government that's engaged in gang stalking, like you hear in the background, is doing so in a manner that's loud because it's true what I'm telling you. So listen very carefully. The entity is engaged in what is trying to blame third parties like Tracy Banks, who are engaged in targeting her own family, because that's what I represent, a blood relative who's subject to targeting by the government, who's been monitoring me since I was born, knowing exactly who I am, knowing exactly the fact that there is no mental illness, no medications, no history of mental illness, no history of prescriptions and medications, nothing of that sort, no addictions, none of that. The entity engages in what is failing at trying to sacrifice. They thought, again, Satan that's using the people, Satan that's using this corrupt government that's gang stalking in an obvious manner, because it would rather document that than me tell you the truth about criminal surveillance that the entity wants to deny. And how are they denying it? They're impliedly denying that they're engaged in criminal surveillance throughout this country by blaming gang stalking a bunch of demons that are, again, targeting based on lies that Tracy Banks has told about me. And that's not true. The entity is engaging in what is a satanic system, and the demon possessed fill this country. This is just the reality. And the government's engaged in criminal surveillance, and it's satanic at that. The government that's been engaged in targeting me since I was a child knows already that I'm not a drug addict, never have been, already knows that I'm not mentally ill, already knows that I have never put my nude body on the internet and never would. Already knew, in other words, that it was Tracy Banks and the entity fraudulently representing themselves as myself and seeking to try to falsely depict my character, the government relying on this in order to then submit it to itself in a corrupt court in order to, on paper, falsely depict my character and thereby steal my property. That the government is targeting me at the outset, knowing who I am since I was a child, conspiring to do this from the very beginning. It's not based on Tracy Banks coming up with a lie that the government then learns about. The government is lying with Tracy Banks. The government is lying with Jason Isaac Fields. The government is lying with the people of the state in concert, conspiring together at the outset. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is a surveillance system. They know exactly who I am. They know exactly what my lifestyle is like. They know exactly how pristine my mind state is and how basically the type of woman I is in my character. The entity is relying on, again, while it's being exposed, is relying on what is, oh, Tracy Banks, she lied about her daughter. She lied and said this, and she lied and said that. And the government that didn't know anything about it believed it. The people of the state that didn't know anything about it, they believed it. And that's why they're gang stalking. It doesn't have anything to do with an ongoing and surveillance system where a demonic system already exists, where surveillance is underway in this country. And amongst the surveillance system, American citizens are targeting with a corrupt government. It's a system that's been in existence. And Tracy Banks sacrificed me, her daughter, and she did so with regard to a pre-existing system. She didn't have to lie and make up anything. She does so while playing her role as the people of the state. The government has to have something to work with. You have to go in the court and bear false witness in order for the government to rely on that and state that that's the basis whereby they're making some sort of illegitimate adjudication on a targeted individual. But the government's engaged in surveillance. They know that the people of the state, like Tracy Banks, are lying. They know that it's a fraudulent marriage. They know that it's a property that I don't know anything about. They know exactly who I am, and they know who you are. So this is relevant with regard to the federal government that's not investigating anything. The federal government that has been exposed by myself, the federal government that has not provided justice because the federal government is, again, delusional. A bunch of demons who are delusional, who are, again, they're looking at losing their lives because they've made wagers with demonic spirits, engaged in death spells. You know what happens with witchcraft that doesn't work? It's going to return to sender. There are people that are going to die. And that's not because I practice witchcraft, that's because they practice witchcraft and it didn't work. So it's going somewhere. And it's not going to touch me. The entity is fearful of this, and the entity that is corrupt is still engaging in corrupt conduct, and it's not going to be a last-minute death of Erica Spencer, and then all this gang stalking that I'm capturing on video is just going to go to waste, and they're going to get away with it, and they're going to steal my property, and it's going to go on with regard to a secret surveillance system. That's not what's going to happen. The entity is being exposed. The entity has been exposed for a very long time. The entity has been suspending justice while still engaging in what is one criminal act of seeking to obstruct justice after another. And it is not because Tracy Banks is a liar. It's not because the government doesn't know that Tracy Banks is bearing false witness about my character while trying to, on paper, substantiate why she should engage in what is the ability to steal my property, which the government targeting me knows all about and acted with Tracy Banks and everybody else that's in my family to target me, including her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields, this little peon who's nothing other than a male prostitute and is irrelevant in my life and is used with regard to targeting me and stealing property from me. That's what's relevant about the city of Ontario gang stalking in the obvious manner that it is. This is conduct of the federal government. And the unsophisticated system, it's unsophisticated, but it is pervasive, meaning everyone everywhere is engaging in it, like my documentation also proves. That's why every single city, every county is engaging in an identical pattern of conduct. LAX is flying commercial planes over the hillside where there are no flight destinations. They're merely engaging what is stalking in the path, and that stalking is given context because the entity is keeping the fake sun in alignment to me, rising and setting, while LAX is doing the exact same thing. Clearly deviating from taking off from LAX, stalking in the path. Ontario International Airport is desperate with regard to monitoring, and it's not a distraction. It's an admission to targeting with the federal government who knows exactly who I am. There's no lies. That is facilitating the criminal system. The federal government is being exposed for seeking to sacrifice American citizens like myself, who they know are not demonic like them, not a part of this system, not a part of Satan's system, and are engaging with trying to kill me off when they thought that they were going to steal my property and kill me off and do so. And now they're facing exposure, and now they are engaging what is trying to, one of the false narratives is that just trying to sacrifice one of its own because Satan is going to have to absorb this loss because they're not killing me through witchcraft. All right. And they're also not falsely depicting my character by gang stalking. The entity is being exposed for gang stalking amongst the surveillance system of the United States. And in addition to that, it is not because Tracy Banks is lying to people and everybody's believing her lies. And that's why everybody isn't. No, these are demons that engage in targeting throughout this country. This is what the United States government engages in. It's satanic. And it's pursuant to surveillance that has been underway. I've been targeted by the government since I was born. They know very well that there's no mental illness condition. They know very well that I would never put my nude body on the internet. They know very well that it was never me. The entity that is conspiring with Tracy Banks in order to steal property from me, and they permitted it because they're a part of the crime. And they're still engaging in it. That's why the Ontario police in the city of Ontario are blatantly stalking on video, providing that damning evidence, like I'm always giving commentary of why would you be such a fool and provide me over 85 videos stalking since you committed a clearly problematic kidnapping where you couldn't even get your life straight while I'm documenting you on podcasts on video. All right. The reason why is because the federal government is engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they have every intent to get away with it, hoping that witchcraft is going to kick in at the last minute and that I'm just going to suffer some mysterious heart attack. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. This is how an entity sacrifices American citizens and then walks away with their property, walks away with whatever it is that the demon-possessed seek to derive from those who are called to expose what is this satanic system, this so-called matrix, this demonic existence with regard to what's going on in this country. We're not different from third world countries. We're not. And I've exposed domestic terrorism while I have been targeted by helicopters like this is Baghdad, like this is Afghanistan. They, again, last night flying over my head while I'm walking down a residential street. This is supposed to be civilization. They're doing that right in front of the federal government that's investigating them? No, they're gang stalking. The federal government is engaged in gang stalking. It's a federal system of surveillance in furtherance of murder and kidnapping. And they didn't need Tracy Banks to lie. They're lying together, stealing together, targeting together. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. Jason Fields is going to federal prison. But this is criminal conduct that's not to be mistaken with something that's at the fault of Tracy Banks. The demon possessed who lose in what is targeting someone else through their witchcraft. Now the demons are fighting amongst each other, and they're going to be sacrificing each other. But the entity is trying to blame like Tracy Banks. No. That's not. The government knows who I am. They've been engaged in surveillance since I was a child. And I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear. And especially as you hear that extraordinarily loud plane activity, that's the entity that knows the truth that I'm speaking. That's why they would engage in that level of evidence, because there's no planes taking off over here. They would rather you hear them blatantly stalking in commercial planes. That's letting you know that, I mean, I don't speak any lies in the first place, but when they engage in that, they engage in flying in circles over my head by helicopter. When I speak of very damning evidence, the entity would rather document that than you hear the truth that I speak about surveillance in the United States and sacrificing American citizens, which is a satanic system that is underway in this country. The entity tried it against me and it's not working. I'm not being killed off. And the federal government is forced to expose itself. And the federal government has been suspending this. And I'm also going to prosecute for that. I would never have any ties. I would never work for or cooperate with the federal government. That's been gang stalking me, trying to murder me and steal my property. And that's exactly what's not going to happen. It's not going to change now because I'm sleeping outside. I'm not going to change what the reality is. The federal government is entirely corrupt. They're engaged in targeting American citizens. That's what's going on. That's what the city of Ontario is permitted to engage in. Because if Mike Lorenz had any actual fear of the federal government stopping them from criminal conduct that the federal government is not interested in, not engaged in, they wouldn't be providing me over 85 videos of them clearly targeting me in conformity to a pattern of conduct in other cities and counties, in a specific environment which defies nature, which is tying all of that together. They wouldn't be doing that. Tracy Banks isn't lying by herself. She didn't lie on me like the government didn't know, like they just engaged in maintaining a fake marriage and a secretly procured conservatorship over. The government's fully engaged in targeting me and thought that they were going to steal my property. That's relevant to oppression. As I am speaking the truth, as I am exposing this country with regard to how what's going on and surveillance that you're subject to, and gang stalking, which is relevant to literally trying to execute American citizens, trying to sacrifice them and do so in a silent manner, in a secretive manner. As I'm exposing that, understand that the entity is acting with and in reliance on the people of the state, like Tracy Banks, but it's not Tracy Banks' fault. She couldn't have done it without a corrupt government that is engaged in surveillance. She couldn't be a witch that's targeting me. She couldn't do it by herself. And it is not her fault alone. This is not giving any sort of, I'm just speaking the truth. The entity wants to blame somebody for their corruption. No, the government's corrupt. They are corrupt through and through. I want to make sure that that's abundantly clear while the city of Ontario is engaging in a pattern of conduct that the U.S. government is engaging in throughout the country. That's why you have a fake sun over you in Naples, Florida. That's why there's a fake sun over in Dallas, Texas, over your house. That's not the natural environment. The U.S. government is targeting American citizens. And Tracy Banks just did her part with trying to keep an American citizen who's in her family. The government found someone like myself to keep oppressed by stealing my property and trying to kill me off while doing so. That's basically that's the long and short of it. And that's not what's going to happen. And I'm also going to expose every aspect of it. And I would never accept a job from the federal government that's been gang stalking me, trying to murder me. We're not going to turn into friends. And I would never speak anything other than the absolute truth about what the United States government has attempted and what it's still doing in the face of exposure. This is why the corruption of the city of Ontario remains underway for so long, in the way in which I've shown it. It is currently 2:20 a.m. where the city of Ontario is maintaining ongoing surveillance. Stalking a woman in the middle of the night, this is violence that the federal government incentivizes and facilitates. permitting Alan D. WAPNER and Mike LORENZ, Michael GERKEN, Paul Leon, a corrupt government body at every level, literally local, state, and federal. It is currently, again, 2:20 a.m. That's ongoing audible activity and engineer light. My shadows are adjacent to each other, as you saw in video, and there's no planes taking off over here. It's very basic with regard to the obvious stalking conduct of a bunch of imbeciles. They're inferior creatures that rely on witchcraft, but they're going to be prosecuted, and the entity has sacrificed itself. And the Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. But Tracy Banks is not the cause for the corruption that pre-existed her being a resident in Ontario, California. Tracy Banks is not the cause for what is the corrupt United States government that's been targeting her daughter since I was born. They know, the demon-possessed know exactly who I am. They're demons. In the spirit, they know who you are. You're already being targeted, and you're already kept under surveillance. And a demon-possessed population, a bunch of Tracy Bankses that fill the city of Ontario, that fill the state of California. She's a demon. So are the demons of the Ontario Police Department. This is the people of the state that are engaging in targeting since I was born. This is the prosecution of that. Regardless of the federal government's stubbornness, if you will, or suspending it, they're only reaping judgment. It's going to be prosecution. It's physical, meaning it's going to be subject to what is a federal court. I'm going to get justice, facts relevant to being submitted in court. But this is relevant to what demons try to wage against in the spirit. They're only bringing judgment on themselves. All of those death spells, they're going to circle back around, and they're going to hit the people that submitted death spells against me. Okay, because it's not going to work against me, and it's going to go right back to the original sender. And there are more than just Tracy Banks that engaged in death spells. Okay, Jason Isaac Fields engaged in his sex rituals with Tracy Banks and all the men that he was having sex with at the same time. While they're engaged in what is these sex rituals, they're engaged in death spells as well. He participated in. They're going to suffer the consequences for it. And this isn't speaking any curses. This is the spiritual truth. And as much as gang stalking by helicopter, by any police department, you're being removed from law enforcement. Just because the federal government is corrupt, it's not changing the truth about what I'm speaking. The entity has at every turn tried to circumvent what the Lord has said and what he has exposed. And you trying to steal his word, he's not going to take very kindly to that at all. At all. So I just want to be clear, the entity is targeting, this is the federal government. These imbeciles in the state of California, the city of Ontario, are acting, again, based on what the federal government is doing throughout the country. They're a bunch of inferior creatures. That's why I've been able to surround them with evidence. That's why they're literally at the level now. They're blatantly stalking. They're fully exposed. There's no secrecy. There's no mystery. There's no intelligence behind what they're doing. Okay, they're fully exposed. Not only that, Tracy Banks isn't lying on me, and everybody's believing the lies, and that's why they're gang stalking. That's a lie. That's trying to make the government seem as though they're not engaged in surveillance, like they don't already know who I am, because they do. They've been targeting since I was a child. The entity is coming in, those psychopaths of the Ontario Police Department, listening to Tracy Banks. Oh, she's on medication, and she was raped, and all the lies that she said on camera, that that I need an examination, and I need that's all audible activity. The Ontario Police Department are engaged in surveillance. And Tracy Banks has been engaged in targeting me with the Ontario Police, who represent the state, who are acting with the federal government, targeting through these imbeciles together. Who literally, I'm cracking their heads against each other. None of them together, all of them together are inferior. This is the federal government. That's what you're getting to. The federal government's targeting, requiring Tracy Banks to lie is nothing other than trying to make it seem as though the federal government's not engaged in surveillance, and it is. The state of California already established that. The specific environment proves it to you. That's why the entity has yet to provide justice. The entity is reaping a judgment on itself. The entity that tried to steal my intellectual property has been making money off of my intellectual property while my actual YouTube channel is being suppressed so that they can steal it. They're engaged in federal stalking, indeed. And this is the federal government stealing my ideas, my intellectual property, profiting from it, while trying to obstruct justice, and at the same time trying to put out any witchcraft, any voodoo, any spell work that will get rid of me while they're gang stalking, psychologically torturing on a daily basis, which I'm documenting. I'm prosecuting for gang stalking. Oh, the witchcraft, the voodoo, the black magic doesn't work. So they're engaging, using their genitalia like the 210 freeway, all right? And they're doing so with regard to reaping judgment on their own heads. And the entity is being exposed for surveillance throughout the country. That's what's happening. And I am getting justice. And it is true, every word that I have uttered. Okay, so I just want to be clear. It's 2:26 a.m. There's no planes taking off from the airport over here at 325 West G Street, and there certainly isn't at 2 o'clock in the morning at that volume level competing with my use of my phone. That level of volume, that's a hovering plane, and it's also demonic. The timing is also letting you know that it's targeted, and you already know the light activity. This is exactly what the Ontario Police Department are doing on H Street, on El Morado, on Bonita, when I'm documenting the people of the state. And it's your confirmation regarding what the demons are, again, fearful of what I expose about them, while they are engaged in surveillance. Tracy Banks didn't need to lie about anything. The government knows exactly who I am. Relied on the entity. They're acting together while the entity steals my identity, lies about my character. That's the entity acting directly and vicariously as one. This is P.O.C. It's 2:26 a.m. This is the entity is ongoing pacing by planes, flying at a low elevation behind that tree, as though there's a plane taking off from 2500 Airport Drive, hovering over 325 West G Street, which there isn't. This is while I'm speaking the truth about, again, the entity targeting with Tracy Banks, who was not telling lies to the government in order to convince it to target me, which a corrupt government remains corrupt, regardless of any lies told about your character. The secret conservatorship about property never revealed to me is corruption by the government that's engaged in surveillance in this country. Surveillance which is identified through this environment, which defies nature, has nothing to do with my under artificial light that does not create adjacent shadows like this. This is the entity that's doing so while you can hear it on podcast, and it's relevant to the criminal conduct of the corrupt entity that's engaging in surveillance with the people of the state. The imbeciles that don't need Tracy Banks to lie about my character because they know exactly who I am, while the entity's been engaged in keeping me under surveillance since I was a child. Tracy Banks lying about me being an addict. Tracy Banks lying about me being some sort of promiscuous whore who puts my nude body on the internet. Never. And the entity knows that. The entity's been gang stalking, seeking to steal my property, maintaining a status of oppression is relevant to keeping silent what it is that I'm exposing. The entity's engaging in that which it's doing in concert with the people of the state, which is Tracy Banks. That is targeting together. It is currently, again, 2:28. This video is at 1 minute and 30 seconds, and you have another plane over here. Okay, you're looking at what is rising up from, that's Palm Laurel. That's not a takeoff. That's not a takeoff. This is stalking. That's not a takeoff. This is what the Ontario Police Department is doing. Demons sitting in the dark, stalking, using a motorcycle. This is not a takeoff from 2500 Airport Drive. And the people that stayed on El Morado, on H Street, on Bonita, on San Antonio, gang stalking as I went around reading their license plates. And the entity that is the Ontario Police Department acting via the, acting on behalf of the federal government's pattern of conduct in this country, are using planes and helicopters to obviously engage in surveillance where you're hovering over the venue where you're being targeted. This is, again, the unintelligent system of the inferior demons who do not need Tracy Banks to lie about my character. Tracy Banks is a third party engaging in what is the United States government's pattern of conduct, targeting you while they are relatives and in your social circle. And the government knows exactly what you are. The government knows when you're not an addict. The government knows you're not mentally ill. The government knows that you're not a thief. The government knows you're not a criminal. The government knows that you didn't take out all those PPP loans in your name. The government knows exactly when they are targeting with planes and helicopters in the specific environment in concert with the people of the state. Tracy Banks did nothing other than play her role. She's going to federal prison for it. But the entity is engaged in criminal surveillance. It's the federal government's pattern of conduct, and the federal government is the one that is not investigating this. This is the federal government's criminal conduct pursuant to surveillance. Okay? The entity is engaging in what is very unintelligent. This is Palm and Laurel. You're not rising in elevation right here from the airport, which is at 2500 Airport Drive. And again, and light activity, artificial lights don't create my adjacent shadows that you see on the ground and upright on the wall. This is the entity that's engaging in what is criminal surveillance relevant to what it is that I'm exposing. And this is the same entity that's stealing my intellectual property while they're engaged in gang stalking. Tracy Banks is going to federal prison for playing her role in targeting me with the U.S. government, but Tracy Banks is not responsible for the corruption of the United States government that's targeting American citizens. And it's demonic. It's entirely demonic. It is currently, again, 2:30 a.m. This is relevant to Jason Isaac Fields, who's going to federal prison. Okay. The entity is targeting. So is the people of the state that are targeting with that government. Everything that they're doing in this environment is achieving the elements of monitoring, which is demonic activity, pursuant to a corrupt system of surveillance in concert with that population. All right. They are crossing. Let me show you where they're crossing path. They're crossing path where you can see that sign. This is my shadow. This is my hand. This is where the entity is targeting. No airport drive is going to result when you're taking off from the airport is going to result in hovering over Palm and taking off as you're rising in elevation over 325 West G Street. This is why you're able to see my hand on this sign at a distance in front of me, and why I have multiple shadows on the ground in front of me. This is where the people of the state are pacing. These are demons that are stalking with the U.S. government, acting via the imbeciles of the city of Ontario. Stalking by helicopter, stalking by commercial planes, stalking on foot in the middle of the night, all manner of criminals that are stalking a woman with the U.S. government. There's no mystery. They're engaging in what is making money off of shows like 48 Hours and Dateline, surveillance in the United States. There's no investigations. They know exactly what's going on in this surveillance state. And gang stalking police officers are going to federal prison, regardless of this corruption that I remain subject to, because I've exposed the federal government for engaging in this targeting system. And they're still waiting on witchcraft that's not going to activate against me. This is P.O.C. The entity, again, this video is at 5 minutes. You have a high frequency of plane activity right here where there's no airports at all whatsoever. And also on the podcast, when I'm speaking the truth about this, the entity engaging what is a louder amplified plane activity while I'm speaking the truth about the U.S. government. Tracy Banks is nonetheless going to federal prison. She parked her car outside. She has a reserved parking space on the inside. She parked her car outside so that she could be a part of the documentation. She already is. As I document gang stalking by the city of Ontario, Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. Okay, this is where the plane activity is underway. Exhibit A. There's no planes taking off from Terminals 2 and Terminal 4. And this is abnormal light activity. This is how you recognize the surveillance that's been underway since I was born. All of Tracy Banks' lies is a part of the pattern of conduct of the U.S. government. This is P.O.C. Absolutely impossible. That's where surveillance is underway. P.O.C. That's Alan D. Wapner. Paul Leon. It's also Mike Lorenz, gang stalking police department. Michael GERKEN, gang stalking fire department. Like I've documented, while the entity keeps a fake sun over 0.4 miles in the city of Ontario from sunrise until sunset, the Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, and the Ovid Family Community Library at 215 East C Street in Ontario, California, where the fake sun rises and sets, where LAPD is engaging in the exact same pattern of conduct pursuant to the United States government's P.O.C. of targeting me under a fake sun that remained over Alvarado Gardens from sunrise until sunset, where Tracy Banks, maintaining a secret conservatorship, acting in conformity to the United States government's pattern of conduct that seeks to steal property that it knows very well belongs to me and never told me about it, the entity targeting by engaging in that means of oppression while targeting and using what is the people of the state to engage in an unabated program of psychological torture, an unintelligent program of, an unintelligent system of stalking through the government, whose corruption is thereby exposed at the same time, while the P.O.C. is suppressed and the entity is stealing that intellectual property. All aspects of this criminal system is being exposed, and there are a lot of people that are going to prison. That's impossible light activity. Remember, my shadows appearing on that sign, that's a stalker. That's the people of the state that I documented on H Street, El Morado, and Bonita, and the entity engages in gang stalking by helicopter pursuant to surveillance. My shadows all over on the ground here, upright on the wall here, and appearing on this sign at a distance over there. This is stalking. And so is 636 North Vine Avenue. They're engaged in criminal surveillance. It is currently 2:35 a.m. This is the P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaging in targeting And the entity is engaging in what are ongoing desperate acts, failing and seeking to falsely depict my character successfully. They failed in that. That's a pattern of conduct, and that's the U.S. government's engagement. They're just using Arrowhead Regional Medical Center. Remember, the state are nothing other than the low-level demons that are supposed to get the job done. It didn't work. The federal government is exposed for targeting American citizens engaging in surveillance. These low-level demons are exposed. And the federal government, federal law enforcement agencies engaging in targeting American citizens like myself, this is what they do to American citizens whom they silence. They silence them by taking your life and keeping you kidnapped. They do so by falsely depicting your character when you don't have the evidence of the P.O.C. like I do. And the entity is merely relying on imbeciles like the Ontario police to kidnap you. Okay? That's why they are being disbanded. And the federal government, this is the federal government's criminal pattern of conduct. It is currently, again, 2:36 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, that was video documentation, and you're always paying attention not only to the clear deviation from taking off from any airport. This is the city of Ontario that's just blatantly stalking in the path by deviating from taking off from any airport, and they don't look like they're engaging in ordinary conduct of an airport. The entity is engaging in a documented pattern of this. Every hotel that I'm staying in Ontario, the city of Ontario gang stalking me by commercial planes flying over my hotel room, where the entity is also rising and setting the fake sun over that hotel room in Ontario. This is the pattern of conduct where the entity is engaging in that P.O.C. at the TABOR professional building. And then the videos that you're listening to, the frequency of the plane activity is also what you're paying attention to. Not just the far deviation. You're taking off from the airport, nowhere near any of the, it's not just here that you're not going to, none of this, it's not going to be over the Ontario Town Square. You're not flying over the City Hall when you're taking off. Flying in the direction west, taking off from 2500 and 2900 Airport Road. The entity is necessarily suspending elevation, increasing elevation by flying higher in the sky. And it's the most retarded looking thing while you're flying miles away from the airport, and then over the house, you're rising in elevation. This is, again, very imbecilic, very unintelligent. The entity is merely engaging in what is a fully exposed and an unsophisticated, unintelligent targeting system. The entity is doing so in the engineer light, further evidence of that targeting, an environment that is entirely irreconcilable with what is naturally happening. These are demons who are targeting, and that's relevant. The frequency, not only the frequency, but a clear deviation from taking off from the airport. And also pay attention to the timing, what I'm talking about. And then you got the loud plane activity. The entity does the same thing with helicopter activity. I'm merely pointing out how you're identifying what is the entity that is, and that's also how, when you pay attention very closely, because the louder that the demons get, it's because of what it is that I'm speaking. And they're psychopaths while they engage it. They do the same thing inside of Starbucks. You'll hear them get louder and louder with their laughter because of the truth that I'm speaking. It's audible activity, and that's psychopathic behavior. The demons that are keeping their back to you. Oh my gosh, you're so funny. And they get louder and louder while they're focusing on me. Those are mentally deranged psychopaths. Stalking under a fake sun while their focus is everything that I'm doing and saying. And their audible activity gets louder, the impossible light activity gets more wacky, and the government's conduct stalking directly becomes more threatening. That is the demons of the Ontario Police Department. As you're legally analyzing, I'm not scared of any demon that's sitting around stalking me in a helicopter. Clearly, you're scared of me. Okay, the entity is engaging. What is this? However, that's how you're going to legally analyze it, because it's reasonable fear. And the ordinary target individual is very much reasonably fearful of a whole police department that's focused on you. You didn't break any law. You didn't violate any. What are they doing? Like, what is the, yes, you should be disturbed by that. That's weird, but it's unlawful as well. Okay, and the Ontario police are gang stalking at that. They're demons. The fact that they're mentally sick and they're stalking you is also an unlawful threat. The entity is doing so pursuant to the federal government's targeting system that's underway throughout the country. And that's also relevant with regard to the suspension of justice. The entity is seeking to, again, avoid exposing itself, trying to come up with the narrative as to why the government's engaging in this in the first place. Blaming it on Tracy Banks is not enough. Blaming it on Tracy Banks is a lie. It's not Tracy Banks' fault. Tracy Banks is a malicious, maniacal psychopath. She's a sex offender. She is a pedophile. Okay, she is engaging in what is the pattern of conduct with the government, however. The government that knows very well about the truth of all the lies that they need Tracy Banks to give those lies with regard to why they did what they did in the court hearings, and they're lying together. They're stealing, they're conspiring to steal and murder via kidnapping, and murder and kidnap via criminal defamation together. The government's engaging in surveillance. They already know I'm not a drug addict. The government that's engaged in surveillance already knows that I'm not a hoe on any of these websites on selling my body or putting my images online. They already know that. They also know the fact of who is acting like they're me, stealing my identity, committing fraud, trafficking in doing so. All right, they know that as well. They know about the cameras set in my home while they're gang stalking. It's the government's criminal pattern of conduct. This is the reality. So it's not going to be put on Tracy Banks because that's relieving the federal government. The federal government's engaged in surveillance in this country. The federal government targets you with your family, targets you with your associates, targets you with your community in order to isolate you, ostracize you, defame your character, kidnap you like the Ontario police have. That's the P.O.C. And it's not because of Tracy Banks. The government knows that Tracy Banks is lying. Just like on May 29, 2025, they need Tracy Banks to call her. They need Tracy Banks to give her that information. They already know that they're lies. They're lying together. They're stalking together. They're monitoring together, just like the Ontario police are tonight, just like I document on an ongoing basis. That's how the system operates. When you have a corrupt government that's relying on, again, the consent of the people, when you have a malicious iteration of what is a corrupt version of that, they are relying on the lies and the targeting conduct of the people in order to do what's supposed to appear as their role in taking action on what has been reported to them as a government. The government's targeting. The government's engaged in a corrupt system of targeting American citizens. All right. The entity is doing so with regard to identifying the causes that the government's engaged in surveillance, and has been doing this for decades. I'm not the first one. So it's not about Tracy Banks lying about who I am, and that's why I was subject to a quote-unquote investigation about who I am and who's responsible for my intellectual property, who actually created it. That's ridiculousness. The entity is engaged in surveillance in the United States. They're engaging in what is watching me expose them. And then these demons thought that they were going to steal my evidence and profit from it. And I was going to be kidnapped somewhere and then come up dead, because that's exactly what they planned on. And it's not happening like that. It's not happening like that. And the truth of God's word is going out. And God is speaking to what the corrupt government is doing in this country. And he wants everyone to know about it. Everyone. And these demons that make up this corrupt government, the U.S. government, they act with the demon-possessed who fill the states. They fill the states. So I just want to be clear, this is the heights of that criminal conduct. My sleeping outside is oppression. The entity thinks that oppressing me is going to silence me, and that oppression is going to aid in their trying to falsely depict my character. You could not make me look crazy. Even as I'm sleeping outside on the sidewalk, I will still legally analyze you. I will still document you, publish it on the internet in an organized and palatable manner, so that the ordinary target individual, so that American citizens, so that everyone can recognize what's going on in this country. It's not going to ever make me look like the entity wants to make me. These demons are delusional. They're delusional. Okay, they're projecting their own mental illness, and their corruption, again, is fully exposed, including while the Ontario International Airport is repeatedly flying over 325 West G Street, which is serving to prosecute the people of the state at that venue. They're gang stalking just like every other household in the city of Ontario, which is what's going on in the state of California. That's why I could be in a whole other county like Los Angeles and document the same criminal pattern of conduct. In fact, the same circumstances of a sun remaining over my head for the duration of the day, sunrise to sunset. That's the fake sun, where the LAPD is engaging in the same corrupt system, where Tracy Banks doesn't have to lie about my character in order for the government to be seen as the corrupt entity engaging in surveillance, seeking to try to steal property that it kept from me, the entity knew belonged to me, and used the people of the state to try to steal it from me through things like a secret conservatorship and fraudulent marriages. Sex rituals, all right, with people that are fake friends of mine. I don't even talk to this little irrelevant pissant Jason Isaac Fields. Okay, he's having sex with my mother, having sex with men, having sex with government actors, engaging in what is thinking that sex rituals are going to give him some sort of spiritual authority over me. He's delusional. His mental illness is clear also through his sexual activity and through his criminal acts against me, which are literally Incomprehensible. They don't make any sense why he would even do that in the first place, because he's mentally sick. He's engaging in the pattern of conduct with the U.S. government. Who's incriminating him while they're targeting? He's going to federal prison. Him and his sexual exploits. He's going to be locked down and he's going to be subject to mental examinations. It's the same with Tracy Banks. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and it's the federal government that's going to be exposed for it. The federal government is no hero. The federal government is not investigating the entity that's gang stalking. The federal government knows exactly what the Ontario International Airport is using the airport for: surveillance, terrorism, psychological torture. The entity knows exactly what the Ontario Police Department are engaging in: surveillance, psychological torture, kidnapping, falsely asserting criminal conduct against that targeted individual. That's kidnapping while they're engaging in surveillance. That's malicious. They're engaged in kidnapping and the federal government knows it. They're aware of what the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center is engaging in: criminal defamation, corrupt actors in the medical field engaging in kidnapping, seeking to falsely depict the character pursuant to that pattern of conduct. They're not ignorant about that. This is what the federal government relies on: the low-level demons of whatever state that you're in. And this is your understanding, and you're witnessing the failure of that system. And then the federal government is suspending its engagement in ceasing its own criminal conduct. The federal government is being exposed for its own criminal conduct. The lower level demons failing at that. It's not even supposed to get to this level. They're supposed to be able to handle you and get rid of you. All right. My documentation that's on the internet is why the entity is also seeking to suppress it. But it's also very interesting that they want to suppress it. They don't want me to take credit for it, but they want to profit from it. That's what the entity is doing at the same time. All right, but they're not telling you the truth about the significance of the evidence. Satan is not going to speak the truth about what it is stealing, but it is taking credit for my documentation, which is my intellectual property, and that's also relevant to the prosecution of the state of California, of the U.S. government. Okay, it is currently, again, 2:48 a.m. on July 2nd. The entity is maintaining frequency of planes, stalking with regard to surveillance in concert with the people of the state, this entire neighborhood, in other words. Who I documented, and the rest of this entire neighborhood, the city of Ontario, targeting while the entity is maintaining about every 90 seconds another plane hovering over 325 West G Street. That's not any planes that are going to any destination from the Ontario International Airport either. This is P.O.C. So I just want to be clear, the gang stalkers at Starbucks, it includes Seth, it includes Brian, Tabitha, Elena, Alana, Amelia, Raquel, Ocean. It includes the third party Harley. It includes the third party gang stalking with the city of Ontario that are working at that venue, including Kimberly, including Vince. They're all gang stalking with the city of Ontario that's stalking by commercial planes where I'm remaining. This is what they're doing while they're maintaining the elements of monitoring. Those third parties are documented engaging in domestic terrorism, and doing so through the corrupt business, the inclusion of Starbucks that's creating a business centered around gang stalking. That's relevant for what is, again, racketeering. They're engaging in violation of Title 18 federal stalking. They're engaged in what is the unlawful targeting with the city of Ontario, the police department as well. They're engaging what is gang stalking, targeting with that government, and they're doing so while they are including the business of Starbucks, meaning selling coffee while they're gang stalking simultaneously, selling coffee while they're gang stalking at that establishment, where they are paying the people of the state a salary while they're engaging in domestic terrorism on the job at the venue. That's why, remember, the engineer light is filling that Starbucks. That's why the fake sun is remaining over that Starbucks. That's why the people of the state are stalking with audible activity inside of that Starbucks, stalking with light activity inside of that Starbucks. That's why the entity is maintaining all manner of gang stalking by the city of Ontario that's flying over and adjacent to that Starbucks while they're flying far over there. Instead of taking off over the Starbucks, they're continuing northwest over here to then suspend taking off and then to engage in what is flying over, rising in elevation right here over 325 West G Street. This is the illogical conduct of blatant stalking by the demons who are documented. That's how you get that, when you document stalking by unintelligent lower beings. It's relevant to what Starbucks is doing, where the entity's keeping the fake sun. Those demons that are preparing coffee are engaging in domestic terrorism and psychological torture and furtherance of murder and kidnapping, and all their names and license plates are relevant to this criminal conduct that the government is incriminating. The government is putting their cases in what is federal court, because this is the criminal conduct that Starbucks and every other corrupt business in Ontario, in California, are engaging in. They're relying on the corruption of Starbucks. They're relying on the corruption of those demons that are working at Starbucks, that are engaging in monitoring my vagina at Starbucks, engaging in what is harassment at Starbucks. The same demons you hear chasing me while I'm documenting on El Morado, on 8th Street, on Bonita, on San Antonio, while I'm here at the TABOR Professional Building by helicopters and airplanes. The entity that's surrounding with the sound of criminal summoning, sounding their sirens, stalking on the roads and the highways. This is exactly what they're doing at Starbucks, where I'm also documenting the entity stalking by plane and helicopter at Starbucks. So this is what you're mindful of, because it's not compartmentalized. It's all one pattern of conduct. So you're remembering this when you see Corey Watson gang stalking with his partner inside of that Starbucks, because it's the same system. And that unlawful threat is relevant to a prosecution that I am going to enforce, regardless of the federal government's corruption and their stubbornness. The entity is engaging in, I'm going to prosecute for that. The entity is embarrassing itself. The federal government has embarrassed itself. The federal government has shown it has filthy hands. The federal government has engaged in all manner of obstruction of justice and permitting. Remember, the federal government is permitting the Ontario police. They're not investigating anything. And I'm not going to change the truth on the day that I do actually get justice. It's not going to change. There will be no round of applause for the federal government. There is no round of applause for any hero. There's no distinction. The federal government's corrupt. They're fully engaging in this pattern of conduct against me. They failed in trying to sacrifice and steal my property in doing so. And now the entity is engaging what is watching me sleep outside while they're still gang stalking and thinking that at the last minute some voodoo is going to kick in, and it's not going to happen. There is no magic timeline where the entity is engaging in what is, we're going to go ahead and do a raid on this day because this is what's required. No, the entity already knows who my intellectual property belongs to. It's me. They've been monitoring me while I've been documenting them at the same time, repeatedly kidnapping, making false allegations about me engaging in criminal conduct while this entity has been kidnapping me in the jail, knowing exactly where I'm at, knowing exactly that I am not any criminal that the entity has sought to establish me as, which is, again, a malice of the entity that's engaging in surveillance. The government that's kidnapping me knows exactly what I did and did not commit. Okay, this is the entity that's engaging in that P.O.C. and all of their criminal conduct is going to come up to the surface because it's all coming out. All of it's coming out while they're stalking in an obvious manner, and they're doing the same thing at Starbucks. Starbucks represents what the people of the state are doing throughout the state and throughout the country. When you can go to your neighborhood Starbucks and be subject to gang stalking, that's letting you know what's going on in the rest of this country. It's literally enveloping the essence of so-called California. You're walking in, you're getting your coffee, you're chit-chatting on your way to work. They're gang stalking, just like they are right now, just like they are every night, just like they are every single day. And the entity is, again, engaging in that pattern of conduct in the face. Why is Starbucks, why are they so bold in engaging in terrorism that I'm documenting? Because the federal government's not investigating anything. That's not an investigation. Where you have a federal investigation, it would go like this. I would be, my documentation is already on the record, and I would be explaining to you how typically this is what they're doing, and I will constantly be reminding you about what I documented, because it's not that they're not gang stalking right now and that they weren't gang stalking before, because I documented it on the record. Let's look at the video together. Let's listen to the podcast together, because now they're not doing it because the federal government's watching them and they know that. But that's not what's happening, because the federal government isn't investigating anything, and that's why they're boldly engaging in criminal conduct, which is still going to be documented and published on the internet, and it's exposing the federal government for targeting American citizens, because that's what I represent. The entity that's seeking to they sacrifice American citizens. They know exactly who you are. Surveillance is underway in this country, and it's demonic. Even the pattern of conduct of targeting you is demonic. The environment where they're targeting you is demonic. Okay? And this demonic conduct is happening at your neighborhood Starbucks throughout the country. Okay? It is currently, again, 2:55 a.m., where the entity that's targeting me is always pointing at itself. They're exposing what the federal government is engaging in. They're exposing what Starbucks and every other third party, what the people of the state, I just documented their addresses and their license plates, and it's all going on the internet, exposing domestic terrorists, identifying them by address, identifying them by license plate, identifying them by the gang stalking conduct of the terrorists that focus on me and target me and follow me around in a helicopter while they know that I'm identifying them.
I would never cooperate by working for any federal government. I am not exposing this because I'm looking for a job. The entity is delusional. The entity is not able to make up for targeting, for failing and trying to sacrifice me. The entity is suspending justice. The federal government is my enemy. And that's a sad situation. That's a sad circumstance. My own government is my enemy while it is targeting me. And then once I expose it for targeting me, just suspending justice while permitting the violence to continue. Because that's what the city of Ontario represents. It's criminal conduct of the federal government. And that's not going to be missed in a federal prosecution. It's not going to be missed. So whoever's going to come forth talking about they're engaging in what is a raid and they're coming in and they're providing that's the entity that's been gang stalking me the whole time. Permitting the city of Ontario, the state of California to target me the whole time. That's not an investigation. There's no secrets here. My evidence is speaking to, there's no secrets here. If you were investigating, then you would not have this boldness of criminal conduct. In plain sight, they're engaging in and they're delusional as well. I just want to be clear. The federal government, they're delusional. I'm getting justice. And what I've said is true. The entity is engaging in criminal conduct. The Ontario Police Department, Tracy Banks, Jason Isaac Fields, who thought that they were leading the pack with stealing my property and defaming my character on the internet while they're worshiping me while they're having sex with each other and a group of other demons, male and female together. They're perverts, they're pedophiles, they're sex offenders, they're psychopaths who are engaging in what are sex rituals, voodoo, black magic, death magic, and it's all going return to sender. And those two demons are going to federal prison, maintaining a fake marriage, maintaining a secret conservatorship. And it's relevant to the corruption of the federal government that relies on this to steal from American citizens that they keep under surveillance, whom they know from the beginning are a threat. And that's what I represent, exposure. I represent exposure. It is currently, again, 2:58 a.m. on July 2nd, 2025, and this is going right into gang stalking at Starbucks. Where those little high school graduates, I'm going to prosecute them. I've already prosecuted them. They're engaging in what is ongoing violence with engineered light while they're targeting with the demons who you hear crossing path at 3 in the morning. These demons are obsessively gang stalking at Starbucks, sitting in plain view and all the evidence at Starbucks. This is P.O.C. The entity is stalking again at 2:58 a.m. With the Ontario International Airport. And this is the direct evidence. When I'm prosecuting Amelia, guess what I'm going to play in court to prosecute her? This right here. And also the evidence of her gang stalking me at Starbucks. And the evidence of the LAPD gang stalking me in Los Angeles, the same system that she's engaging in. I'm going to prosecute them. This is P.O.C. Yeah, there's no planes taking off from the airport. This is what you're going to prosecute Amelia. That's a gang stalker at 507 North Euclid Avenue at Starbucks in Ontario, California with. She is a third-party gang stalker with the city of Ontario, the state. And it's in conformity to the U.S. government's targeting system. And as I document Amelia by name, whose license plate I read yesterday morning while she was engaging in surveillance in her vehicle, stalking in the path while this entity is, as a population, tracking my steps, stalking from place to place, doing so also by plane and helicopter like you can hear. I already read her license plate. I've documented her many a times. She's engaged in threatening me with the Ontario Police Department as I document her, and she's threatening me now while I speak her name, and the city of Ontario is engaging in ongoing terrorism, stalking by commercial planes. None of this is ever going to bear any sort of negative reflection on the character of the targeted individual that is empowered with what is documentation of being targeted by a mentally sick population, a government that's engaging in surveillance, which is satanic. The entity has already forfeited any ability to steal my property, and people of the state, including Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, are going to federal prison. Starbucks, the corporation, and Starbucks workforce, Starbucks, the establishment, the venue itself at 507 North Euclid Avenue, are engaging in because you're going to prosecute based on the address. Remember, the specific environment is stalking. The fake sun goes where I go, so therefore I'm going to prosecute that establishment. The entity thought it was clever by stalking through an environment as opposed to an individual, so you're going to prosecute based on the malice of that satanic system. And that venue is documented engaging in gang stalking in furtherance of kidnapping and criminally defaming me in order to steal property in concert with the state, the federal government. Starbucks is engaging in that. And Starbucks facilitates it. Starbucks is hostile to your constitutional rights. Starbucks is hostile to your standing up for yourself while I'm documenting the violence that those sex offenders engage in. Okay, none of them could be over the age of 28, 30. Okay, this is the entity that's again, well, maybe some of them like Ocean, but the end they could not be. They hired a bunch of little demonic, hell-bound demons that are engaging in targeting while they make less than $25 an hour, making coffee while they're gang stalking. Okay, this is speaking to the corrupt population that is gang stalking. They're gang stalking at Starbucks. They're gang stalking at 325 West G Street. They're gang stalking where you are on the 10 freeway. Targeting is underway throughout the state of California. And while the entity is targeting, as I document Amelia will be prosecuted with that same evidence. She doesn't have to be here. I've already documented her, by the way, but she doesn't have to be here right now for her to be threatening me. While you document the entity engages in more violence. That's why the entity is flying over my head by helicopter while I'm documenting the demons' license plates as I walk up and down the street off of H and El Morado and Bonita. They don't have to come outside of their house. You don't have to come and sit in your car. You don't have to do that. The rest of the entity, it's an entity that's pacing all around me. They act together as a team, an inferior team, okay? A team overwhelmed with evidence. Speaking to targeting, not any legitimate conservatorship. You're targeting. You're targeting in order to steal and maintaining a status of oppression in order to do that. It is currently, again, where the entity is gang stalking in this obvious manner, which is evidence against the federal government. 3:02 a.m. All right, that's crossing in path, light activity, audible activity, stalking with the same U.S. government where there's no planes taking off of G Street. There's no planes taking off, flying, hovering over Fern Avenue. There's no planes rising in elevation from some terminal off of Palm and F Street over here. The entity is far away from any airport to get what I just captured on video, flying beneath the trees and then hovering over at 325 West G Street. That's the entity stalking by planes, which is built into the pattern of conduct. I've been documenting that. It is currently, again, 3:03 a.m. on July 2nd, 2025. This is relevant to the federal imprisonment of Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks, and it's relevant to exposing the federal government that's not engaging in any investigation. And the entities not only gang stalking, but also stealing my intellectual property, profiting from it, while seeking to suppress. That's the significance of it, not only profiting from it, but also, which is relevant to keeping me oppressed. You're stealing my money from my intellectual property while the entity is suppressing my YouTube channel, and the entity is at the same time still gang stalking, kidnapping, engaging in an unlawful eviction, which is what the Ontario Police Department engaged in while they're gang stalking at the same time, engage in all manner of desperate acts of trying to artificially engineer a circumstance where they can substantiate an illegal, a criminal means of a fake secret conservatorship. It's never going to happen. And when you have this level of exposure, it's never going to happen. But also, the federal government isn't investigating anything either. This is the federal government's criminal pattern of conduct. The federal government is the one that sanctioned this. And the federal government is exposed while the state of California failed at it. All right, and the federal government is threatening my life on a ceaseless basis. The federal government is the one that is exposing me to this ongoing unlawful threat. The federal government is my own enemy, as I am a citizen in the United States of America, while it's targeting me and failed in taking my life and silencing me. That's what's relevant to justice that I am going to get. But it will not include me applauding any of the, basically the gang stalkers that are going to have to interfere at one point or another. But it's not going to be, this isn't going to be any sort of sweet homecoming or thankfulness of the federal government. This is the federal government's criminal pattern of conduct. All right. This is, in other words, the Lord Jesus, which is forcing the demons to come up off of my property and to stop engaging in this conduct. They're being forced to. Jason Isaac Fields isn't apologetic. Tracy Banks has not repented. She's still gang stalking. She's praying to Satan right now. She's a psychopath. It's not going to happen. She's gang stalking. You know that because these demons are still monitoring. You're not getting my property. I'm not going anywhere. You're not getting my property, and you look like the targeting entity that I said and that the evidence supports you as. And the federal government looks corrupt. They look incompetent, but it's not incompetence. It's corruption. Okay? If this isn't mere incompetence, why are they doing all this to the federal government? They're not investigating anything. There's nothing to investigate. I've been exposing this for years. They've been trying to kill me off for years. It's as simple as that. The entity is engaging in gang stalking at Starbucks in the Ovid Family Community Library as well, while they're up at 2, 3, 4 in the morning, stalking by plane and helicopter, and by gang stalking on G Street. That's what you know about the entity. It is currently 3:06 a.m. on July 2nd, 2025, where another plane is rising at what is Palm Street, providing evidence against all the sex offenders that I document engage in bathroom monitoring and the Ovid Family Community Library, stalking under the fake sun over the Ovid Family Community Library, bathroom monitoring at the Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, Amelia, Vince, Seth, the demons that are Elena and Ocean, monitoring my vagina with the entity that's gang stalking my planes and helicopters at 3 in the morning, stalking as an entity. This entity is obsessed with my genitalia, obsessed with property that doesn't belong to it, okay? And obsessed with what it is that I expose about them. Obsessed with when it is that I fall asleep, what it is that I'm dreaming about, how fast or slow I walk, what it is that I eat. They're obsessed while they're engaging in this pattern of conduct, which is fully exposed. This is what's going on at Starbucks. This is exactly what the entity is engaging in while I'm sitting inside of that cafe and a bunch of demons sitting there engaging in surveillance, exhibiting severe mental illness. This is what you're mindful of, what you're cognizant of. The Ontario Police Department, the City of Ontario, gang stalking by plane and helicopter, a bunch of demons stalking in the middle of the night, because that's what they're doing at the Starbucks. That's what they're doing while I'm subject to surveillance at the Ovid Family Community Library, replete with the fake sun and the engineered light. All they're doing is pacing all around. And the entirety of that corrupt system is exposed. And the federal government is fully exposed, while the City of Ontario, the state of California, is exposed for it failing at sacrificing me, failing at stealing my property. This is P.O.C. It's currently 3:07 a.m. Just as an aside, recall my documentation on May 29th, 2025, where I documented, first of all, at 3 in the afternoon, UPS gang stalking under the fake sun. And the fake sun is in that same parking lot as I'm documenting at 8 and 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning. Very good evidence documenting gang stalking at Woodside Senior Apartments, where the entity maintained the fake sun as I documented every hour of the day pursuant to what is identifying surveillance, the environment where it's happening. And it's not just idiotic, but it's very plain and obvious, where a sun sits over one building, which is at an apartment complex, all day long. And this is surveillance that's underway by the people of the state who are necessarily helping the entity that's gang stalking. That's why you have the ongoing coexisting helicopter activity also, where that fake sun rises and sets. So if you'll recall my documentation on May 29, 2025, I did speak at length about Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields and return to sender, and how the entity is going to experience judgment and how I'm going to get justice. I spoke a lot, if you recall that documentation. This is the same day that Tracy Banks came into her apartment in a frenzy and just started talking about things that made no sense, that she didn't want to explain, and then engaging in what is the documented lies in the presence of the Ontario Police Department on video, which I documented. Recall what it is that I'm referring to, because this is what is relevant with regard to the entity that is always keeping me under surveillance, my evidence under surveillance, and then the demon possessed, who are very fearful about what it is that they've already done, their witchcraft and all that's not working, while they're still gang stalking. They are, again, counting on a mysterious death. They're counting on kidnapping by the entity. And so this was the desperate act that Tracy Banks and the Ontario Police Department engaged in. And it's relevant to what I was discussing on podcast and what I had been discussing when I was in Tracy Banks' apartment with regard to her sex partner, Jason Isaac Fields, with regard to her co-defendants, Eric Spencer, who's gang stalking with her on her phone, Daryl Mandy gang stalking with her on her phone, Dan Ackery gang stalking with her on her phone, all the people that stayed on her communication device, which remains a part of the same pattern of conduct, the same evidence, the same record. But recall everything that I discussed in that apartment when I was documenting Tracy Banks and documenting the state of California, the federal government that's targeting me while I'm inside of a private space, where the people of the state are engaging in surveillance where they live. I literally exposed it while I'm in Tracy Banks' apartment. That's what the people of the state are doing while I'm on the sidewalk outside, and they're gang stalking me. Okay? They are being prosecuted for targeting, threatening with the Ontario police, who commenced to flying over my head and pacing all around me while I'm documenting them. Like you're going to stop me or anybody from reporting the targeting that you're engaging in furtherance of murder and kidnapping someone. You're not. But the entity did that, and the entity is always doing that, and that's a part of the pattern of conduct. I'm going to prosecute for that. But what I want to remind you about is what it is that I spoke of. If you can listen to what I discussed on May 29, 2025, because this is the same day that Tracy Banks and the entity, this is the federal government that decided to engage in kidnapping and thought that they were going to keep me in that status with regard to criminally defaming my character, and trying to make that stick. And that the entity is engaging in what is a desperate means. It's relevant to what everything that the entity is doing, including stalking in a highly frequent manner. There's no airport over here. It's the most idiotic thing, but I document it. This is what they do. They fly in circles over my head everywhere in the city of Ontario. I document it. This is what they do. It's a surefire, straightforward prosecution. Nonetheless, the entity is in that same way, listening to everything that I document and reacting to what it is that I expose about them. These are demons and their followers, i.e. stalkers, okay? So the kidnapping that the federal government is engaging in via Arrowhead Regional Medical Center, via the Ontario Police Department, via the people of the state, Tracy Banks, at Woodside Senior Apartments. This is the U.S. government's P.O.C. All right, that's it's relevant what I'm discussing about Jason Isaac Fields and about justice. While this demon has been engaged in targeting me with his sex partner Tracy Banks while I'm in her apartment, he's still targeting now. While the state is targeting me, I just want to be clear that this relevant context is not forgotten. That you're always cognizant. You're not looking at anything in a vacuum. It's an ongoing, continuous pattern of conduct, and so is the documentation. And the entity is engaging in that, and it's relevant to what the entity is committing as it's committing it with regard to what it is that I'm discussing on any day. And that's also relevant at the same time when the entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct, the elements of monitoring. So I want to make sure that I bring that to your the forefront of your mind. May 29th, 2025, what I was discussing. Mostly it was in the morning, but I was discussing it on a routine basis because Jason Isaac Fields is a demon. So he's been engaged in what is spiritually attacking me, as I would document in the middle of the night. This is the same demon that's engaging in sex rituals with my mother. This is the same demon having a fake fraudulent marriage on paper that I know nothing about. And by the way, I've never been married and I've never had any kids. And the entity is engaging in what is maintaining a secret conservatorship with Jason Isaac Fields' secret sex partner. They're also engaged in a sexual relationship, which they're also, again, embarrassed about, don't want to be known. I'm exposing all of that. And it's relevant to their targeting me together. Both the people of the state whose name I know and the entity all together at once. The entity that is engaging in what are relationships like Shanita Ramaya McLean ever having sex with Jason Isaac Fields. I never introduced those two demons to one another. So when did they get together? Through some sex party, I suppose. And that's when their genitalias fused while they're targeting me in the spirit, which gave them no spiritual authority over me. But it's relevant to documentation, relevant to identifying the entity that practices demonic means of targeting in the same way that they're gang stalking in the demonic environment. They're engaging in witchcraft, they engage in voodoo, black magic, sex rituals. They do so with your mother, they do so with people who are your friends, and this is what Satan has told these perverts that is going to give them success in a spiritual sense. Let me be clear, Satan makes people sex offenders, Satan makes people pedophiles, Satan makes people voyeurists, Satan makes people perverts. Okay, and that's what it's the Jezebel spirit, which made all of them sexually perverted while they're engaging what is targeting me in the spirit and also targeting me in relevant position, gang stalking me. It's relevant to the entity that's gang stalking not only by the government, but gang stalking clearly. When you have a secret conservatorship, the government's targeting me. The government's targeting regarding property that the government never told me about. And the fact that the government never told me about is not an accident while I'm being gang stalked. It's not an oversight. It's not a mistake. Okay, the entity that's engaging what is bearing false witness in the courts, the government is aware of who I am. They're engaging in surveillance. Eric Corey Spencer, Shanita Ramaya McLean, Jason Fields, Tracy Banks, and anybody else bearing false witness about my character and these corrupt courts that are targeting, engaging in surveillance, already knowing who I am, relying on, just like they need the people of the state to summon them, they need the people of the state to bear false witness so that they can act in furtherance of that conspiracy to steal together. The government knows exactly who you are. You're under surveillance. They needed them to go in there, and that's federal prison, by the way. They needed them to bear false witness. The government knows, and the government is engaging in this corrupt system together, and as sure as they are stalking by planes and helicopters tonight. Okay? As sure as they are stalking at your neighborhood Starbucks through the people of the state. That's what the entity is doing with regard to an unintelligent system of targeting. It's unintelligent and it's all fully exposed. Fully exposed. Be mindful of what it is that I discussed on May 29, 2025. Because the entity decided to engage in kidnapping via the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center on that day. Okay, and it had nothing to do with anything that happened circumstantially. The entity is keeping me under surveillance, knows what it is that I'm documenting. And Jason Isaac Fields, the one that seeks to profit from stealing my property with Tracy Banks, his sex partner, he's having sex with his grandma. This is the entity that's engaging in that with knowledge of what it is that I'm documenting, engaging in what is another kidnapping. That's what the entity, and it's the same with Tracy Banks having a secret conservatorship and engaging in that blatant act of malicious assertions with the gang stalkers of the Ontario Police. All of this is relevant. I'm just reminding you about what's already on the record, what I'm discussing, what I'm in the apartment documenting. For example, another example, the entity's targeting with impossible light inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, scanning light across her ceiling and walls in the living room, stalking with light, in other words, which is demonic. And which the evidence of stalking with light, which is where monitoring is going on in her apartment, at that apartment complex, with the people of the state, in concert with the Ontario Police, gang stalking under that fake sun that remained over her apartment every hour of the day. But nonetheless, the entity is stalking with impossible light, as I would refer to Alan D. WAPNER, and I documented over 25 times, scanning of engineered light on her ceiling. If you'll recall that's called psychological torture. That's pursuant to real-time knowledge about my documentation. That's also where the Ontario International Airport flies over that apartment complex, doing so while the fake sun is over my head, as I reference Alan D. WAPNER, and as I'm in that apartment, the entity maintaining impossible light activity 25 plus times, just engineer light just flying across her ceiling, scanning across like when you use like a gun at a not a gun, but like a price tag gun, where you're scanning a price tag in a store, that sort of iteration of light, but it's magnified in size and it's scanning across her wall, and it's white light. And I've documented this with regard to the entity that's gang stalking. This is happening inside of Tracy Banks' apartment, and all manner of impossible light is documented inside of Tracy Banks' apartment. This is what the entity is necessarily just disregarding when they're engaging in corrupt targeting. Okay, the entity is engaging in what is stealing my evidence at the same time, profiting from it. That's a means of oppressing me while gang stalking me. That's a means of trying to criminally defame while the entity is engaging in that P.O.C, seeking to steal my property, seeking to maintain an oppressive state. All right, so the entity, and that's relevant because the entity wants to maintain a state of oppression so that you don't hear what it is that I have to expose about the government, expose about what it is that I've been subject to, and it's relevant to what American citizens in this country are subject to. And this is where you're getting to literally down to the perverted acts of my so-called mother and my fake friend, Jason Isaac Fields, having sex with each other while they're summoning demonic spirits, trying to spiritually attack me and gang stalk me as a population of demons. Okay, that's what's relevant. Jason Isaac Fields, in other words, Tracy Banks, they are going to federal prison. The entity is engaging in the pattern of conduct. They're going to federal prison. As I'm at the Ovid Family Community Library documenting gang stalking, Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison. While I'm at Starbucks documenting federal group stalking and monitoring, Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison. While I am documenting the P.O.C. as I'm walking from the library and walking on El Morado in the middle of the night, and helicopter activity by the Ontario Police Department is underway. While I'm living in Alvarado Gardens and I'm subject to gang stalking by the LAPD and the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department and the City of Los Angeles Fire Department, Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison. Okay, that goes without saying. These are the obvious motive for targeting is seeking to steal my property that this government kept a secret from me. Those two are going to prison. Okay, they're going to prison for being the means of maintaining a fraudulent marriage and a fraudulent secret conservatorship, and you're having to make up mental illness in order to do that about property that you didn't even tell me about, that you're not even including me in any. This is criminal conduct by the federal government. Remember, it's occurring in the state of California, but this is happening in the country. The specific environment is how you know that. A fake sun remaining over Ontario, California is how you know what's happening throughout the country. This is the U.S. government's conduct of targeting American citizens. This unintelligent system has been exposed by myself in California, and the entity is going to federal prison for it. These two imbeciles having sex with each other, Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, are going to prison for it. Okay? The entity is engaging in this with impunity. This is with regard to the lawlessness of the federal government that is engaging in domestic terrorism, targeting American citizens. Okay, it is currently, I just want to make sure that that's clear. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct as I am documenting it, and I have been for years. And the entity is engaging in what is suspending justice, and that's relevant to the prosecution, the exposure of the federal government. That is no hero. The federal government their hand is being forced. They're not a hero because they sat around repeatedly kidnapping me through the state of California, stealing from me, trying to suppress the evidence against itself on the video of the internet while profiting it while I'm sleeping outside, keeping me in an oppressed state. And by the way, that is no mental illness. That's not the inability to support yourself when they're gang stalking you and stealing your property. Okay, the entity is under all circumstances fully surrounded and entirely corrupt and on the wrong side. Filthy, dirty hands, targeting. They don't have a legitimate stance in court. Why am I still subject to the P.O.C? Because the federal government is corrupt. That's why. It is currently, and there's no investigation by the federal government. It's 3:22 a.m. It is, again, the criminal conduct of the Ontario police is serving to expose literally the federal government throughout this country. That's how relevant the evidence of the environment, the evidence of the pattern of conduct by the entity is to what's going on in the rest of this country, and the far extreme and psychopathic means of this entity to go trying to suppress what I have to say. That means that you need to pay close attention to it. And trying to keep me in a kidnapped state, trying all manner to try to falsely depict my character, that's because the entity doesn't want you to listen to me and wants to try to render illegitimate what it is that I'm exposing to you about it. But who they are and who I am is very clear. Okay, what they're doing and how they're doing it is also very clear in the evidence. It is currently 3:23 a.m. Remember, in about less than 2 hours, Starbucks is actually opening at 4:30, and guess what's going on at Starbucks around the corner from here? Gang stalking. Just like the unintelligent imps that work at Starbucks are clearly proving. And I've been at over 6 different Starbucks in California, Southern California. They're all gang stalking. The Starbucks Corporation is engaged in criminal monitoring like every business is. This is a statewide, countrywide pattern of conduct. Surveillance is underway in this country, and it's entirely demonic. And just be mindful that an hour and a half at Starbucks, the entity is gang stalking at that venue. It is P.O.C. It's 3:24 a.m. It is currently 4:47 a.m. The entity maintaining amplified plane activity 4:45 a.m. and 4:44 a.m. I am around the corner from Starbucks. Starbucks is already monitoring with regard to the venue that I'm headed to. The entity is stalking where I'm at. The entity is stalking as I am being targeted and maintained in relevant position, maintaining ongoing surveillance as I go to any venue, and Starbucks is monitoring while the Ontario International Airport is maintaining amplified plane activity over G Street. So demons are stalking in the path like you see Ontario police gang stalking, driving on Lemon while I'm walking on Euclid, stalking on the cross streets, maintaining presence at whatever street that I am walking on, maintaining relevant position and light activity. And Starbucks is a facilitating venue that's engaging in that P.O.C. It's ceaselessly underway. It's going on uninterrupted at that venue where the entity has the fake sun rising, and as I've documented, also in a position setting at 7:26 in the evening. That's the entity that's gang stalking around the block from the TABOR professional building where the Ontario International Airport is stalking by commercial planes and stalking by the Ontario Police Department using helicopters like I documented. It is currently 4:48 a.m. This is P.O.C. 9MRE 668. Nine PSY 831 8YKZ 384 Laurelwood Apartments, gang stalking. A demon crossing path, getting into a vehicle to maintain method of light activity, and this apartment complex is monitoring as well. Just
while I'm mentioning it, license 9NBN 356. Yeah, I've got 3 upright shadows right here where they're stalking in the path. 8NEB 394. 4:51 a.m. and the I.I.S treatment center, they're gang stalking with the addicts that are stalking in the path, with the gang stalking, I don't even call them physicians, but the gang stalkers that work at the treatment center, they're monitoring as well. They're the ones providing drugs to the addicts, and they're all demons monitoring together with the government. Again, 8NEB 394 in that parking lot, P.O.C, where the entity is gang stalking on video. Let me show you again the pattern: stalked with multiple shadows while demons are stalking in the path. You will see 8NEB 394 stalking in the path, and I've got 3 upright shadows, and a demon that works at the I.I.S treatment center is gang stalking with this license plate, getting out of this vehicle, engaging in state surveillance while being dropped off at work. 8NFB 394. Impossible light activity while your shadow is in front of you upright, and there's 3 of them in front of me. And that's again while I'm standing on the sidewalk. That's not light activity, that's coming from like the lamps on the sidewalk, the street lamps or building lights. They don't cause multiple shadows and the stuttering light, and shadows that are down on the ground and then shadows that are upright, maintaining the same size as you or taller than you, which is magnification. This is the entity that's maintaining ongoing surveillance while they are keeping light in the path at nightfall. The people of the state that are gang stalking are chiefly maintaining this by stalking in the dark using vehicles. 7THX 757. Let me get the people of the state, hold on. It's plain activity, stalking in the path with light. Stalking in the path with light. These are demons. And this is the business of Starbucks. That is, again, the entity sounding plain activity as I start aiming my camera. 8YDV717, 8UQJ918. That's the so-called fake wannabe G. He doesn't put up his whole name on his name tag. And that's the Starbucks employees is what I mean. And license 6ZEU331. Gang stalking with the Ontario International Airport. That's not taken off over there to TABOR Professional Building, where there's going to be plane engines roaring. This entity stalking in perfect alignment with light activity. That's a demon. Okay, engaging in that P.O.C, where you have the entity stalking with light activity. 1 shadow, 2 shadow, stalking with light activity, P.O.C. Okay, the RICO case with regard to Starbucks is the criminal engagement using the business profiting from gang stalking, 7LJEO75. That's relevant to the racketeering. They're engaged in federal stalking the employees, the use of the business itself, the establishment, acting in concert with the city of Ontario, engaging in criminal surveillance. That's relevant to the fake sun being over the venue itself, as I document, and the entity that's surrounded with engineer light. Under this cover structure, there's never going to be any sunlight that's appearing on the walls inside, where the demons that are gang stalking working at Starbucks are pacing while they're engaging in monitoring, making the coffee drinks that Starbucks sells as a product, and simultaneously engaging in the criminal system operated by the state. That is federal group stalking and monitoring on communication devices, federal stalking online. All right, it's currently, and it's also prosecution for psychological torture. Engaging in tactical warfare against an American citizen that you're stalking together. Okay, stalking is a violation of the law. Federal stalking is a violation of the law. The government engaging in criminal surveillance in violation of the law. Starbucks is engaging in all of that while they're preparing coffee drinks for the people of the state to purchase. Okay, aiming light in relevant position while the entity sounds train activity. And you know that this is engineer light. The entity is maintaining multiple shadows. This is where Corporal Tedosky is engaging in criminal summoning with the people of the state in the specific environment. Gang stalking police officers, okay? Sitting in the parking lot, maintaining surveillance, stalking in the path, anticipating my arrival. The Ontario International Airport, the entity gang stalking by the sound of the amplified train. And this is surveillance that Starbucks is engaging in with the demons who are already in the cafe. What is maintaining surveillance together? Okay, walking out of the cafe, getting in the vehicle is the entity purchasing drinks while they're gang stalking. His shadow's moving across this wall, impossible light activity, while his shadow is, again, multiple shadows on the ground. He's monitoring. Purchasing from Starbucks is the corporation's prosecution for, it is relevant for a RICO case. That's how purchasing drinks at Starbucks is going to be used against them. They're gang stalking, though. And there's multiple ways to prosecute that, including a RICO case. It is currently, again, 4:56 a.m. This is P.O.C. at 507 North Euclid Avenue. Directed light present at nightfall. Directed light while the entity keeps a fake sun over this venue for 12 hours. And directed light while the people of the state that are pacing on Euclid Avenue are stalking with impossible light that's occurring on the inside of the venue. Absolutely demonic. And they're not strangers. They're targeting and they're gang stalking with the government. And that's relevant to the RICO case. Our RICO case against Starbucks. At every single last Starbucks, gang stalking. This is a demon. Amelia's stalking in the past. She's not focused on stalking. This is how demonic they are. This is P.O.C. All right, the video you just listened to is ongoing evidence of the entity stalking from place to place, tracking my steps as I'm going to the venue where the entity is engaging in surveillance as well, which is at Starbucks. And what you witnessed is the entity that is gang stalking, maintaining presence in the parking lot, and doing so while the entity is sounding amplified plane activity, which is aiding in the people of the states, the business Starbucks' criminal engagement in gang stalking. The entity is engaging in what is coming out of the cafe to engage in what is purchasing a drink. And I just want to give some context, just excuse me, some common sense aspect. It's 4 in the morning, it's 5 a.m. right now. Typically the entity is not having people walking in the cafe. It's open, but like I said, the entity is engaging what is coming inside of the cafe, where the entity is also stalking with impossible light and keeping a fake sun and gang stalking through the city of Ontario, because this is where I'm coming inside and sitting. If I wasn't here, then the cafe, especially at 4 in the morning, they're not going in. It's very convenient to go through the drive-through. It's very convenient. It is, the entity is able, they have an app where you can order and go inside. But again, the drive-through is empty when the people of the state are stalking in the path in the parking lot. This is what you're looking at with regard to what's conducive to monitoring me. Either way that they're doing it, the elements are there, but you're just paying attention to, and 4 in the morning, the entity is maintaining an empty cafe. They're not coming at 4 in the morning and getting their coffee and walking out. You're monitoring and gang stalking me and doing so. You're also doing so while you're going through the drive-through, but I just want to be clear, the entity is maintaining activity inside of the cafe with regard to my presence coming and going, regardless of the circumstances. I just want to state, at 4 in the morning, the entity is engaging in what is, if having any traffic whatsoever, it's through the drive-through. So, and that's just the typical, I've been around subject to that P.O.C. The entity engages in whatever my circumstances provide. So for when I'm mobile, when I have my vehicle, Starbucks is not filled inside of the cafe. People are not sitting inside playing Monopoly. This is not the generation that we're living in. The entity is gang stalking, sitting in the environment because they're engaging in surveillance. They keep the people of the state around you while they're stalking, all right, and helping the employees that are gang stalking as well. Just want to point that out all the time. And going inside of the cafe and you have an entirely empty drive-through while the entity is engaging in the same iteration of the, another iteration of the P.O.C. What am I always documenting? Meeting me at the driveway. So they're engaging what is already being present, stalking in the path with light, amplified plane activity, and then a third party going through the drive-through as I am capturing video evidence, okay? This is what the people of the state are engaging in. It's the entity that's engaging in the P.O.C. regardless, but I just want to point that out. It is currently 5:02 a.m. at 507 North Euclid Avenue. Where this is the entity that's targeting with the Ontario Police with the intent to obstruct justice while they are engaging in surveillance of the evidence that's going to be used against them. And so threatening with the police equals, again, federal prison. That's not going to change. I'm going to document your criminal acts of threatening with that corrupt department that engages in kidnapping. And that is speaking to their prosecution and also their engagement in surveillance. That's your knowledge about being documented while there's psychopaths gang stalking passive aggressively in the specific environment, which is showing psychopathic behavior. All right, not talking to you, not addressing you, wanting to maintain the appearance of a stranger when they are targeting you specifically. It is 5:02 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, it is still July 2nd. It's 5:12 a.m. You're looking at positioning that Starbucks employees are engaging in. The boxes are in relevant position and they're in engineered light. So this is the form for pacing back and forth, crossing path with me, monitoring what I'm doing online in doing so. And this is Elena and Amelia, and this third party with his license plate is, let me document that license plate. It is 8UQJ918, who is maintaining relevant position as also the Starbucks employees engage in heavy bathroom presence, which is also unsanitary, while they're obsessively consumed with monitoring me, and not hygiene, okay? While they're pacing in and out and touching the bathroom doors, not washing their hands in doing so, and going back and preparing the coffee drink. So the people of the state who are filthy also, they don't care about hygiene. But I just want to point that out. The heavy bathroom presence is directly opposite of what an entity that's preparing your food and drinks should be engaged in, and that you want to know that they're engaging in. But that's exactly what they're doing. Heavy bathroom presence while they're pacing in and out of that bathroom with regard to stalking me, which is again speaking to the specific environment where the priority is not based on your being an employee at a venue and engaging in what is working on your shift, while your engineered light and the engineered light that is maintained by the people of the state that are pacing outside of the venue, and the fake sun that remains over, it is showing the priority is the criminal activity of gang stalking, as opposed to what Starbucks is known for, should be known for, which is coffee preparation. But they're engaging in that pursuant to criminal monitoring, which is directly relevant to the criminal enterprise inherent to being a patron at the venue, where the City of Ontario is gang stalking through them and with them, as the City of Ontario has also demonstrated, engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct with Starbucks employees pursuant to federal stalking with the intent to obstruct justice, harass, and terrorize and threaten me while they're monitoring the evidence that's being published on the internet. So I just want to be clear, the third party with that license, 8UQJ 918, is engaging in what is stalking in the bathroom. The entity is engaging in very high, as you'll see me capture images while the fake sun remains on the east side of the cafe in alignment to me. The employees engage in heavy pacing in and out of the bathroom. They're doing so pursuant to what is monitoring, and it's also relevant with regard to sanitary and hygiene practices, while the entity is obsessively consumed with monitoring. I mean, remember, their pacing is pursuant to timing. So they're engaging in stalking with presence in the engineered light. With regard to what I do as I do it, there is no focus on actual hygiene when they're engaging in that level of stalking conduct. And you should be mindful of that when Starbucks is exposed as a gang stalker like it is. They're engaging going into the filthy bathrooms, touching the nasty bathroom doors, not touching their hands, washing their hands, while they're engaging in what is focusing on going into that restroom. And I can state that because the entity is maintaining empty soap dispensers. So you're going in and out of the bathroom, stalking in the bathroom. Whether you're actually relieving yourself or not is not the legal question. They're engaging in the P.O.C. of the elements of monitoring. And they're also not washing their hands while they do so. And that's not funny. I'm laughing because it's pathetic while an entity is stalking in a bathroom. And it includes those that are preparing your drinks, your beverages, and your food while they're gang stalking American citizens. It is currently 5:15 a.m. where the employees are engaging in surveillance by doing things like stalking in bathrooms. And that's what Starbucks employees are doing while they are engaging in what is the business of this the company. This is again located at 507 Othukut Avenue in Ontario, California. It is 5:16 a.m. So pacing in and out of the bathroom while pacing back and forth from the boxes which they're emptying. This is ongoing pacing, and the form is the demon always wants to look like they're engaging in something functional, like they're engaging in something productive. They're doing something, not just Satan walking back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. That's the relevant positioning, the engineered light, showing you all the ways in which the demons are engaging in monitoring, and that the ways that they're not clever while they do so. It's 5:16 a.m. P.O.C. All right, you're looking at the third party who, again, his license plate is 8. Hold on, let me document. This is a demon that's stalking in a bathroom. 8UQJ918. He's gang stalking in the bathroom, and the moment that you can hear the toilet flush, he does that with simultaneity to my logging on the Starbucks Wi-Fi network, okay? This is when he flushes the toilet, and this is when he's engaging what is just loitering in the bathroom while engaging in federal stalking conduct, the elements of monitoring pursuant to my activity on my device. And this is the entity that's engaging in that pursuant to knowledge. Remember, these are demons, and so the demon-possessed, in case you did not know, I've already shown it, they know what you're doing on your devices. They are stalking in the path while not looking at you, talking to you, and they're stalking with activity. They're doing so under a whole fake sun, which also lets you know that they're demons while they engage in that. Moreover, this demon works for Starbucks and is engaging in what is hiding in a bathroom so that he can engage in activity creation and then rushes back out right back into into the bar area where he's focused on being in a filthy bathroom and touching all manner of filthiness and then going back to preparing drinks and food at the cafe. Their focus is criminal conduct. It's not actual preparation of the food and drinks for Starbucks, but again, the people of the state are gang stalking as well, and I am the focal point, not actually purchasing the drinks at Starbucks. And the supernatural environment is what proves that, and also the entity that is gang stalking the way that you're seeing. You'll see uploaded to the Google Drive, he's walking out. He's doing so in engineer light. I took a picture of the engineer light that's inside, so you'll see my hand. You'll see 3 shadows of my hand. This is where they're walking in and out, crossing path in the bathroom, and pacing, emptying the boxes, which is pacing. And doing so, the toilet sounds, and he walks out as I log on to the Starbucks Wi-Fi. Okay, this is simultaneity of conduct. This is while the entity is pacing on E Street with flashing light. This is all manner of demonic activity, very demonic. This is mental illness while the entity is engaging in targeting with the city of Ontario. This is P.O.C. All right, it is currently 5:24 a.m. The entity being aided by the people of the state that enter in to do the exact same thing that the employee does. As I clear out my phone again, restart it, another demon doing the exact same thing while they're waiting for me to log onto the Wi-Fi. And this is another demon that's engaging what is stalking in the bathroom. It's 5:24 a.m. where the entity has this heavy bathroom presence. This is with regard to gang stalking, and it's also very pathetic when you put the gang stalkers in the true light of what they're doing and the ways in which they do it. It's pathetic. But this is, again, an all-consuming obsession with monitoring me and monitoring what I'm doing online. And Starbucks is criminally engaging in federal stalking while they are including the sale of their food and beverages in that criminal pattern of conduct. And that is relevant to what is the racketeering aspect regarding their engagement in criminal surveillance with the state of California. This is, again, Elena and Amelia, who are gang stalking with the patrons, and this is not a patron, this is somebody that just walks in and enters into the bathroom, which is what they're all doing. They do have their orders. The Starbucks prepares their cups. They go right into the bathroom, pacing in and out, picking up their drinks, if not sitting and engaging in surveillance under the fake sun in the engineered light, or getting their drinks, going into the bathroom and leaving, which is the elements of monitoring their gang stalking as a whole population, just on hundreds of people doing that day and night. This is relevant to the Rico case. They're engaged in gang stalking, criminal surveillance, federal stalking under Title 18. It's 5:25 a.m. where another demon's engaging in exactly what the employee is doing, stalking with activity at the moment that I log onto the Wi-Fi, and doing so with regard to just maintaining presence in the path. Okay, this is group conduct, so you can have multiple people engaging in the elements of monitoring together. At 5:24 in the morning, the entity is with simultaneity to my restarting my phone, entering into the restroom behind me, crossing path and doing so, while the entity is pacing on Euclid Avenue, gang stalking at the Chevron, the Arco across the street, Elena pacing right here in front of me with the boxes, and the entity is maintaining ongoing activity, and they're all in engineered light. Okay, this is P.O.C. It's 5:26 a.m. All right, it is currently 6:19 a.m. You're seeing in alignment to where I'm seated at the facilitating venue of Starbucks. That is a gang stalker engaging in what is stalking in the path in that specific environment. And the fake sun is in perfect alignment with me while the people of the state pace in and out of the venue, purchasing a drink and doing so, gang stalking with the corporation and the employees of that corporation at the facilitating venue, which is maintained as a crime scene. The fake sun in alignment at 6:19 a.m. The people of the state pacing around the venue with the engineered light inside of the venue with regard to criminal monitoring. This is what the entity is engaging in while they're engaging in surveillance of the evidence against them as well. This is what Starbucks is doing with regard to the evidence against Starbucks. This is what the state is doing with regard to the evidence against the entire entity. At 6:19 a.m. you'll see the images of that fake sun in alignment to the east side of the cafe where I'm seated, which is relevant to positioning where everybody is stalking. Of that one person who is maintaining that documentation of a fake sun on the same street. Remember, 4 hours from now, where I am documenting the city of Ontario at the Ovid Family Community Library, the fake sun is over my head, and I'm on the same street, 0.4 miles away from here, where the entity, as I've already documented, keeps the fake sun, both at this Starbucks and also at the Ovid Family Community Library, which is evidence of a sun not moving as it's remaining within 0.4 miles on the same street that runs north and south, Euclid Avenue, in Ontario, California, and that's not at any time of the day, by the way, over Ovid Family Community Library, and it's also not in anywhere in Los Angeles, and it's also not
not anywhere over you in a natural environment wherever you are in this country, while the entity is engaging in the maintenance of a crime scene where criminal surveillance is underway by the demon-possessed. And it is at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. That'll be uploaded to the Google Drive. This is P.O.C. 7:46 a.m. The people of the state entering into the Starbucks with massive engineer lights sweeping all across the floor on the inside. Monitoring, that's also terrorism and harassment. And the people of the state license 8UQJ. This is the third party that I documented this morning, pacing into the bathroom, which is what the entity is doing. While you'll see the fake sun in alignment with my person. That's not the sun, that's the crime scene, where targeting is underway. Targeting where they're walking, which is the bathroom's purpose, because I'm sitting on this side, which is where the fake sun is at on this side, and that's also the side where the engineer light is swiping all through the cafe, reaching into the depths where I'm seated. This is again 7:46 a.m. entering in, and another demon right now as I documented, 7:46 going right into the bathroom. This demon's license plate, again, third party gang stalker employed at the facilitating venue. This is relevant to the violation of federal stalking statute, Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. He is, and so it license 8UQJ918. He's pacing right along with the patrons. They are the people of the state. It's just that the demons that are working at the venue are engaging in malice as they're gang stalking as employees of a venue. You're not supposed to be aware that you're being gang stalked. But the entity, and you're also supposed to be psychologically tortured and falsely depicted as being some sort of paranoid person, while the demon possessed are engaging in this very pattern of conduct. Pacing under the fake sun and engineered light while they're all engaged in federal stalking under Title 18, license again 8UQJ. You'll see the fake sun also, 8UQJ918. The fake sun is at 7:41 a.m. in alignment to me on the same side of the cafe. Tabitha is here, gang stalking. Elena, Amelia is here. I'm engaging in that P.O.C. and I believe Alana as well. The people of the state are pacing in systematically, and the light activity is again increasing as I document. That's relevant to psychological torture and Title 18 federal stalking. All right, it is 7:48 a.m. This is P.O.C. at 507 North Euclid Avenue, Starbucks. 7:54 a.m. and what you're looking at is the elements of monitoring. First of all, again, the impossibility of the light is getting to the psychopaths that are gang stalking. In plain view, you're looking at them engaging in it. You're looking at them engaging in federal stalking. Coming in and purchasing a drink is the RICO prosecution of Starbucks. They're engaging in what is maintaining a facilitating environment conducive to criminal monitoring, and that's why it's not only the establishment but the employees that are engaging in the pattern of conduct, including the impossible light swiping into the depths of the cafe, the engineered light that is on the wall adjacent to the drive-through window, absolutely ridiculously impossible light, speaking to intent by the employees to engage in the pattern of conduct of criminal monitoring in violation of Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. The entity is doing so as I've documented them. What you see that psychopath Patty engaging in on video is a prosecution for a RICO case of Starbucks. They're engaging in criminal monitoring in real time. The entity is doing so while they are also acting with the intent to obstruct justice. So you're looking at a third party. It's 7:55 a.m. She is entering into the venue, walking in, light that is impossible to occur. It's never going to be present inside of the depths of the building. The sun is outside. The sun is above us. It's not adjacent to us. The sun does not shoot horizontal light. The sun does not cause light to also cause the same shape of the windows and the doors on the outside. So they're walking in engineer light. They're coming inside, walking in engineer light. And then their engineer light is also swiping into the depths of the venue. And then while they're pacing, their shadows are extending upon across to the opposite end. It's all manner of filling with light activity. This is excessive light activity. All of it's engineered. And as they enter in purchasing a drink that is Starbucks, that is simultaneously engaging in criminal monitoring while preparing the drinks, taking the orders for the drinks, selling the drinks, and giving the drinks to the customers. This is the business that's engaging in what is the pattern of conduct of gang stalking in furtherance of murder and kidnapping in violation of federal stalking statute Title 18, Section 22618, subsections 1 and 2. You'll see this third party that I capture. She's in engineered light, which is impossible. It's also impossible while the entity is keeping the fake sun, as I documented what LAPD is doing in the same exact specific environment. It is the prosecution of Starbucks, who represents the people of the state. I'm going to sue this company. It is a RICO case. The racketeering aspect with regard to
to violating federal laws that include not only the federal stalking statute, but the government's lack of any warrant or probable cause to keep you under surveillance, including through corrupt businesses like Starbucks, who are hiring gang stalkers, who are engaging and monitoring you while they're working at a crime scene, which is evident through the maintenance of that environment, which is impossible to occur, by the way. The sun doesn't stay over any building, let alone a business, for 12 hours, like I've already documented. So just giving you what you're witnessing while they're in real time acting with impunity and malice, pacing in and out of the bathroom, while their shadows travel across the floor, while they're walking in light that's never the product of sunlight. Also, it's not the product of sunlight when the sun's over my apartment in Los Angeles at the same time of year. It's also not the sun, also speaking to the crime scene, an unintelligent, easy identification of a crime scene because the sun is still here 12 hours later, which is speaking to a system that's underway by an entity doing so while they are witnessing their exposure, and they are still engaging at Starbucks, is still engaging in criminal monitoring. So the entity is engaging in that P.O.C. while the people of the state are, this is with regard to understanding what they're doing, it's criminal monitoring. But you're going to understand that these are demons, and that's demonic light. It's a demonic scene, and it's also demonic while they engage in the swiping of light conduct, which I have on video, with the tornadoes of light all over the ceilings and all over the walls, which I have on video, which the entity is engaging in what is placement of the engineered light flat onto the floors on the inside, while you can also see my shadow that's outside of the store as I show you the engineered light that they're walking in while they enter into the venue, gang stalking as a patron, which is a criminal conduct of Starbucks. The employees that are gang stalking is criminal conduct of Starbucks. The ongoing harassment with the intent to obstruct justice is criminal conduct of Starbucks. And they're engaging in the demonic pattern of conduct is Starbucks being a domestic terrorist and engaging in psychological torture with knowledge that their criminal conduct, its criminal conduct is being documented. It's demonic. So you have a company that's engaging in satanic means of targeting, while remember the company itself is operated by people who are engaging in demonic behaviors, and it's under the guise, it's in the name of that company. You're going to prosecute that company. Also, that company has establishments, and at 507 North Euclid Avenue, that company is the crime scene where criminal monitoring is underway, and that is relevant to the racketeering prosecution. The entity is engaging when it's walking their crossing path as they walk through the cafe. You'll see the fake sun shining in all of its brilliance at 7:51 a.m. And the people of the state are crossing path, the employees and the patrons alike. They're all the people of the state. The only difference, you're going to take off the aprons of the Starbucks employees. They're all demons. And they're actually pacing. These are demon-possessed people who are in the spirit going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth around me. They're pacing, all right? It is currently 7:59 a.m. The entity engaging in the same pattern, the walking in engineer light, outside, walking in engineer light that is flat on the ground inside, and swiping engineer light while they open and close the door, and they're walking in engineer light while they pace beside me while the fake sun is in position to me. And this is where their shadows are traveling all across. All of that is light activity. All right, for purposes of criminal monitoring. 7:59 a.m. going to purchase a drink, which is what they're doing, pacing in and out, purchasing drinks in and out, monitoring, pacing under the fake sun, gang stalking underway by the same entity that was stalking all night long, the city of Ontario, by plane and helicopter. This is the people of the state engaging in that criminal system, and Starbucks is profiting while the elements of monitoring remain underway, and the government itself is maintaining surveillance all around the venue, including in the airspace, while the whole crime scene is maintained for the criminal purposes of that population. It is currently 8 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right. Also, Kimberly is entering into the venue, gang stalking. It is 8 a.m. So just documenting the people of the state that are gang stalking on the job, where Starbucks, the corporation, is engaging in criminal monitoring in concert with the state. Kimberly is present with regard to Elena, Amelia, and the third party whose license plate, I have his license plate because he doesn't bear a name on his tag while he's gang stalking. He drives the gray Kia K5. Alana is here, that's what I thought. She walks in gang stalking before 6 a.m. In doing so, she's monitoring. And she's here monitoring while they're engaging in what is the surface level assessment of what is being present in the venue and engaging in your job of preparing coffee drinks. They're engaging in the elements of monitoring, and even the preparation of the drinks is they're stalking with activity while the fake sun remains at their place of work, and the people of the state are pacing in and out and in and out and purchasing from Starbucks in doing so, which is that RICO case. It is
8:02 a.m. This is P.O.C. And yeah, Amelia's still here. Elena. Just want to get the employees that are gang stalking with the terrorists. They're pacing in and out at Engineer Light and pacing to the bathroom. Crossing path with me while the fake sun is. This is all light activity creation monitoring. The psychopathic pacing. P.O.C. All right, the images of the people of the state that you'll see, it's 8:06 a.m. uploaded to the Google Drive. The entity is stalking, and that stalking is proven through the maintenance of that specific environment. The fake sun is so low that it's seen through the window of the Starbucks that's facing Euclid Avenue, where, as you know, it's still there in that same manner at 10 o'clock in the morning and at 11, where the entity is keeping that fake sun. And the images of the people of the state, as you see them walking west and walking east, and that fake sun is hunkered down at that low elevation, while Engineered Light is, you also know, it's flat on the ground, pushing into the wall, where they're walking in Engineered Light, and they're walking under the fake sun while they are crossing path with me. And you're mindful of the Engineered Light as I hold my hand up over the table, and my shadow of my one hand, there's three of them, and the entity that is in the, again, the volcanoes, excuse me, not volcanoes, the tornadoes of light that are swirling about on the inside, which is not the product of driving outside. It's not the product of opening a door. It's not the product of walking. It's absolutely impossible. It's the evidence of demonic activity pursuant to criminal monitoring. That's what that evidence is probative of. And you've seen Starbucks employees and the patrons engaging in gang stalking in plain view, giving you a narration regarding the evidence of criminal monitoring to prosecute Starbucks that is engaging in what is a RICO case against it for federal stalking under Title 18, doing so in concert with the patrons. They're purchasing drinks, gang stalking, and Starbucks is not innocent because Starbucks, the employees are gang stalking with them as well. So it's not as though there's a case where you can say, well, the people of the state are coming to the venue and we can't control, we're not aware, because no, that's why I document Patty stalking with Impossible Light. That's why I document Alana stalking with Impossible Light. That's why I document Harley and Seth and all the demons with Engineer Light dancing on the drive-through wall, where there's no iteration of that ever happening from a car at the drive-through. That extensive cover that they have, the fake sun even being over the building, it has nothing to do with that Engineer Light. It is intentionally there while the employees are gang stalking, and they're pacing just like the employees. At 8:08 a.m. again, Engineer Light sweeping through the this circular sweeping of Engineer Light that I've also documented on video is ongoing while they're pacing. This is psychopathic behavior. While they are pacing beside me, they're stalking. They're doing so while they are going in and out of a bathroom. And I also want to be clear, this is surveillance, so they know that people are already occupying the bathroom, and their focal point is where I'm located inside of the restaurant. License 9EPL072. Stalking with Impossible Light, while the demons who you see, this female with a bun, Latina, kind of thick in the neck, with glasses, a black hoodie with red writing on it. She is engaging in the same act of terrorism, which is impossible to happen one time. Every person is walking in, repeating that same supernatural occurrence while they're all monitoring with Starbucks, the corporation, and Starbucks' employees. This is the Engineer Light sweeping through while they open and close the door. They're walking in Engineer Light that's outside on the sidewalk, Engineer Light that's flat on the inside of the cafe, pacing back and forth into and out of the bathroom with regard to stalking in the path, while you can see that fake sun that's hovering to be seen through the window of this Starbucks that's facing Euclid Avenue, while the entity is again relevant to what is the proof of stalking, because the sun is remaining over Tracy Banks' apartment, as I'm documented every hour of the day at Woodside Senior Apartments, while the entity is keeping the fake sun same time of year where the entity is rising the sun in alignment to my living room window that's facing the hillside in Los Angeles. That's not outside of Starbucks' window at 507 North Euclid Avenue. None of the placement of the fake sun has anything to do with the Engineer Light, which is documentation of terrorism and psychological torture while psychopaths are targeting you, and they're targeting you under the guise of what's supposed to be strangers. But again, all you have to do is go beneath the surface. This is an unintelligent system, and they are proving that they are not strangers at all, that they're targeting you, and as they do so maliciously, it is exposing severe mental illness. To target as an entity one person, to target in the demonic ways that the entity is doing, mental illness is exhibited in all manners. Again, the entity is engaging in this together as a company, together as a corrupt entity. That is, again, the employees of Starbucks represent the people of the state, the city of Ontario. Now they are representing also a corrupt company, Starbucks, that is relevant for a prosecution for a RICO. Okay, just giving you context about what you're looking at, the asininity of stalking under the fake sun and engaging in what is gang stalking with engineered light, which then you have it on video, and then the entity is going to be in court before the impossible light activity, which is evidence of surveillance. This is the same conduct that Tracy Banks has inside of her apartment. Inside of your apartment where that engineered light is present, to say, I don't know, is going to be your prosecution. That's a psychopath that's engaging in criminal monitoring and doing so with all of their neighbors. While the entity is gang stalking in any one apartment, all of that apartment complex is gang stalking, which is, again, Starbucks is gang stalking, is prosecuting all of the old people at Woodside Senior Apartments because this is the exact criminal conduct that they were engaging in under the fake sun that's not over units 49 through 64, while you're looking at them pacing around me, psychopaths stalking by going into a bathroom and stalking and attacking with impossible light that's reaching out toward me while they keep their backs to me, looking to the left and right, ordering a drink from the defendant, Starbucks, and gang stalking, all right, in violation of Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. This is the entity that is engaging in gang stalking, and doing so, this is exactly what the Ontario Police Department is doing while I'm documenting the people of the state on El Morado Court, on H Street, on Bonita, in San Antonio Avenue, and the entity is stalking with helicopter as I'm walking up and down the street. The people of the state are pacing using vehicles and engineered light as I'm documenting, and the Ontario Police Department are following me around in that neighborhood in the specific environment using helicopter to communicate an unlawful threat while the people of the state are gang stalking just like they are at Starbucks right now, okay? It is currently 8:12 a.m. This is P.O.C. That loud laughter, this is what's so pathetic, that's even monitoring me. Remember what I told you to pay attention to as I point out damning evidence. The entity that's engaging in monitoring, they get louder. The laughs get louder, the activity, the noise gets louder. The impossible light activity gets louder, if you will. While the entity is rising up the volume on the light activity and the audible activity, it's all being published to the Google Drive for the prosecution of Starbucks, which represents the people of the state. Prosecuting any company is prosecuting what the entire state is doing, based on the character of the evidence. So the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct and is doing so to the demise of not just demons that are getting not paid enough to go to federal prison, I know that, while they're engaging in the P.O.C. on behalf of the government. That incriminates them as they're stalking me day and night in planes and helicopters, and they're engaging in the same criminal system. It's not taking a pause. It's not stopping. I don't have privacy inside of Starbucks. Clearly, they're gang stalking in Starbucks, and this is how they're executing it, and it's highly idiotic. And I'm publishing it and documenting it because I'm going to prosecute them. It's 8:13 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, 7HXA572, and you will see the impossible light activity also evident, and the entity entering. One demon enters in, the impossible light sweeping through as they open and close the door. That's demonic. It has nothing to do with the door opening and closing. Okay, and the female enters in behind him. None of that engineer light is occurring as she opens the same exact door in a substantially similar manner. Same building, same position, same address, same fake sun, same position, seconds behind. And the entity is, again, their timing as they enter and exit the building. This is all hovering, demonic. These are demons. So they enter in and exit pursuant to monitoring me. In addition, these two, it's a male that you'll see. It's currently 8:19 a.m. He enters in, engineered light sweeping through. This is terrorism as I'm documenting it, and I'm accumulating what is the evidence of Starbucks being a domestic terrorist. And this female enters in, and that light activity doesn't occur. As she exits, you're going to pay attention to her paying attention to me. When I am taking a picture of my hand that has multiple shadows on the table, these are demons that are paying undue attention to me while I'm sitting on the inside of the cafe, and me holding up my phone. Again, all of it, holding up your phone and being in custody of it, that's not sufficient. The entity is clearly targeting, but I just want you to pay attention to these little details. She's looking dead at me while she is in engineer light and under the fake sun. And as she exits the building in the same manner that she entered, now you'll see the engineered light sweeping into the depths of the building. That's not what happened as she walks in. It has nothing to do with the fake sun or the opening and closing of the door. These are demons. It's demonic. Okay, when you see the plane in the sky and you hear the amplified plane activity, the plane you see has nothing to do with the volume of the plane activity that you hear. This is demonic. This is helping you. I'm helping you understand these are illusions where demonic activity, the demon possessed, are right in front of your face, engaging in targeting through their cartoon environment that's surrounding you. This is demon possession manifest as well, but this is covered in images. And while you see that light activity, that's federal stalking under Title 18, and the population is entering one after another another, after another, after another, after another, after another, engaging in that pattern of conduct, which is supernatural, okay? It's not happening while the fake sun it's not happening naturally. It's not happening while the fake sun is in position outside of the venue where it remains 12 hours later. And it's also not happening while the sun is in Los Angeles over my apartment at Alvarado Gardens. That light activity is never happening. You're also going to pay attention to this demon's position of her attention, because it's on me, okay? While I am not looking at her, I don't hold up my camera and it's like, hey, look, I'm going to document. I'm not doing any of that. I don't address them. I don't look at them in the same way that they are. They don't address me. They don't look at me. They act like they're not under a fake sun. They act like the helicopter's not flying over the building. They act like they don't hear that amplified audible activity. They act like there's no tornadoes of light. They act like there's no light inside of the building, which is entirely impossible to occur. They act like nothing is happening, and they're going to be in federal court being diagnosed and prosecuted as well. The entity is paying attention to me, which is an ongoing admission of targeting as well. Their behavior, which is uncharacteristic of those that are simultaneously trying to and failing at, like they're not targeting, because all the entity is the environment is proving that you're targeting, especially as I document that supernatural environment. It's impossible for it to occur naturally. While you're looking to the left and the right, I don't need a demon. I don't need a third party. I don't need the state to admit to anything. They're surrounded with the evidence, okay? And the same way you don't need somebody with fingerprints on the knife to admit to murdering. You're going to prosecute them with the direct evidence of it, all right? And these are psychopaths, and it's literally Satan, who's the father of lies. But they're also very highly unintelligent, so you don't need to say it's going to be a straightforward prosecution. But that's what you're going to pay attention to. You'll see the images of that engineered light, a thin, long line that's like in front of the door, and it's on top of the flat engineered light that's creating the shape of the door. So it's layered engineered light while the door is opening and closing, okay? Very asinine what the entity does with light. It's just stalking with ongoing massive light activity while they're monitoring. And this is aiding the government that's surrounding outside to keep maintain surveillance. They're keeping bodies in here, bodies in and out of here, audible activity in here, and while they're engaging in what is just rampant light activity, which the most obvious method is keeping the fake sun for hours. If I don't leave, neither does the sun. This is the crime scene, okay? And I just want you to see this demon focusing her vision on me when she really shouldn't have even noticed me, because I'm on the opposite end of the building, not saying anything to her, and she's paying close attention to me while she's stalking with light as well. All right, it's currently 8:23 a.m. Her license plate, again, is the license that I recited at the beginning. That's her license plate. And the male, he engages in the same conduct that he did when he entered. When she enters in, that light activity, which is never going to happen under any circumstances at all, is occurring as she walks out after staring at me and stalking with impossible light. That's a psychopath. That's a demon, okay? That is, again, should not be aware, but for gang stalking and monitoring on my device, that you're being documented, because that's what that facial expression is reasonably construed as, what pursuant to the pattern of conduct, okay? It is currently 8:24 a.m. This is Starbucks' criminal conduct that they're going to be prosecuted for. Starbucks has the deep pockets. You're going to drain those pockets. You're going to prosecute, and damages are designed to punish. It's a criminal prosecution for criminal activity, a RICO case, but it's also a civil prosecution. I'm going to prosecute and recover for civil damages, the ongoing harassment, the ongoing numerosity of defendants acting with the corporation targeting me, doing so with its own employees, where you should be able to sit. Starbucks is designed to be an environment where you should be able to sit with a cup of joe and study, focus even, have a peaceful conversation, come in and conduct a prayer meeting. Okay, but the entity is maintaining a chaotic and disruptive and harassing environment because they're monitoring, and they're also monitoring somebody that's documenting them. All right, this is where you have the earthquakes through the wall, where that same wall where you see impossible light swimming all across it. Sounds like these demons are losing their mind, throwing themselves across the wall, and then demon psychopaths like Raquel acting like, I don't know, I can't tell you, I have no idea, I couldn't tell you. That's a psychopath, all right, an unintelligent one. This is why you document Satan, because they're liars. All right, it is currently 8:25 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, 8:32 a.m. The entity is maintaining presence in the bathroom, Elena and an African-American male. The timing that the African-American enters the venue with the same exact impossible light activity sweeping while the sunlight is supposedly creating the shape of the doors and the windows flat on the floor, but then you have this additional layer of dynamic light that's sweeping across while that light doesn't move, it doesn't change while they open and close the door, and the light sweeps on top of it. That's, again, the entity that's stalking with light, and the breakdown of it, it's clearly just, it's demonic, and it has nothing to do with even the fake sun. These are demons that are engaging in entering and exiting pursuant to knowledge about what I described, and then they listen to it, and they engage in ongoing monitoring as in real time, and also after I analyze it, document it, and they continuously engage in it. This is the entity that's a bunch of demons who are psychopaths. But the third party that's entering through the front entrance, this third party is entering as I am documenting the 3 Latinos that are exiting out of the side entrance that has the patio covering. They're walking in engineered light. First of all, sunlight doesn't appear underneath covered structures, number one. And that's also speaking to what I also documented on video, engineered light sweeping on the inside as you open and close the door. While that's impossible light activity, and doing so while they are targeting me, purchasing a drink and doing so, okay? As I document that, immediately the African American enters in. You'll see him in operation of his device while crossing path under the fake sun. And this is the entity at both entrances having this dynamic light sweeping in through, which is relevant for monitoring. So they're systematically maintaining light activity and presence while purchasing from Starbucks, who is intentionally engaging in gang stalking right along with them. It's 8:34 a.m. P.O.C. at 507 North Euclid Avenue. Okay, what you'll see, it's currently, by the way, 8:53 a.m. I just want to give the significance of the screenshots. At 8:53 a.m., as the entity is monitoring my activity on my device, the entity is entering in pursuant to stalking with light activity, as these are demons who are monitoring, so they're engaging in what is the ongoing pattern of conduct as you're documenting in real time. So this is, again, relevant to, it's actually about me while the demons are monitoring at the same time. And this is what I'm documenting while this demon enters in with the engineered light that's captured in screenshots. You'll see the African American male, the trio of Latinos going onto the other side entrance. You have the Latina female with the black hoodie on. You have the female the petite female that is staring at me while she's walking out and stalking with light. In other words, everybody that's walking in is engaging in the same exact pattern of conduct, which is supernatural, which is speaking to its proof of targeting. And I've captured the light activity at both doors, by the way, with regard to the engineered light swiping inside of the venue. And the entity is engaged. It's a stalking with light tactic. It's a light activity method. First of all, the employees that are present, they're engaging in what is activity creation. These demons are engaging in the business of Starbucks while they're monitoring. Engineered light is all over the walls and ceilings surrounding Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, and there's an additional male whose name, I have his images, he's already published to the drive, but he has arrived engaging in the pattern of conduct as well. The entity is engaging in gang stalking via the business of Starbucks, which is literally the crime scene as well at 507 North Euclid Avenue. And the entity is gang stalking with the entity that is outside pacing in traffic, entering inside of the venue, pursuant to real-time knowledge of what I document. Literally, as I begin to record right now, and I'm typing out their names, so the entity is following step by step what I'm doing. Typing out Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, etc. And I am beginning to record with regard to the light activity, because I typed out ILA above them, being the employees, as they pace on Euclid, they being the people of the state on Euclid Avenue. As I typed that and then began recording, immediately a demon is entering, stalked with impossible light. And doing so as I recite the timestamp where the entity is that's stalking with activity pursuant to demons who are monitoring. Just breaking down how the entity is engaging in what is federal stalking, Starbucks the corporation, and the employees are gang stalking. They're all surrounded with impossible light while they're preparing the drinks that they are selling for a price, for a profit, while they are simultaneously engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring, gang stalking. All right. This is Starbucks engaging in what is surveillance. And that is the employees doing so in concert with the population, who doesn't have to come in and purchase a drink. the population is maintaining business profit for the company while they're gang stalking me, doing so while they're in relevant position outside. Stalking is proven through the maintenance of that environment because it's relevant to surveillance. Keeping someone under surveillance is relevant to stalking, where the government has no warrant or probable cause. So this is what the population is doing while they're all in traffic on Euclid Avenue in both directions, north and south, stalking as an entity, while engineered light is all above Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, and an additional male employee who are stalking in the path while they are in the crime scene, which is where they work, monitoring with the people of the state who are engaging in ongoing psychological torture while stalking with light, ongoing harassment while they're monitoring the evidence and I document them, and doing so while I'm also capturing it, and they are engaging in what is escalation of that same P.O.C. This is all government action, by the way, okay? So it's currently 8:56 a.m. That's the significance of the screenshots that I'm capturing. So you'll see the engineered light that is changing in size, a thin line and then a thick bar that is reaching underneath the table. It's underneath the table, reaching into the side of the door while they're opening and closing, while the light activity that's creating the shape of the windows and the doors at the front entrance of Starbucks that faces Euclid Avenue, that remains stationary, and then an additional layer of engineered light is swiping. By swiping, I mean it is dynamic, moving essentially from the one side to the opposite side of the cafe, and reaching into the depths. The entity has this light activity reaching me while I'm seated on the couch. At distance away from anybody walking in and out of the door, where they shouldn't even they shouldn't even notice me unless you're looking for somebody in the cafe and then you're perusing with your eyes, like looking who's in here. The entity is reaching, that is targeting with impossible light activity. It wouldn't appear in a small manner, and it wouldn't appear in the exaggerated manner that it is inside of the cafe. And this is again relevant to Starbucks engaging in that pattern of conduct. The entity is doing so while Starbucks employees who I've named are engaging in the elements of monitoring with the demons in the drive-thru, with the demons on Euclid Avenue, with the demons stalking in the sky space, with the demons engaging in surveillance seated in the venue, with the demons coming in and out of the venue from Euclid Avenue, getting in and out of their cars, where they're all engaging in what is monitoring me. Entering and exiting is all the demonic synchronicity. It's all focused on what I'm doing, okay? And this is Starbucks, the corporation, engaging in Title 18 federal stalking. And everything that I'm documenting with regard to the stalking with light conduct, the opening and closing the doors with engineered light swiping all around, it's evidence that I've already captured on video, and it's the pattern of conduct that I've documented at different Starbucks cafes as well. It's impossible to happen even one time. So the fact that you have a supernatural occurrence happening more than one time is speaking to a pattern of conduct that is intentionally underway, knowingly underway, deliberately executed, pursuant to what is also relevant about this light that's not even natural, creating multiple shadows, upright shadows, magnified shadows, shadows at a tremendous distance away from me. It's relevant to engineering. And the entity engages in their pattern of conduct of creating disruptive, harassing noise, of molesting and pursuing with light, like as I'm sitting in the cafe and it's reaching all the way across the room toward me. And the entity is doing so pursuant to what I do on my phone as I do it, to what I do on my laptop as I do it. Understand that this is relevant to knowledge about what you're doing on your device. This is how you're understanding it is surveillance, and it's also demonic. All right, it's also psychopathic for anybody to do this, what the entity is doing at what is a business this prosecuted under RICO. The entity is engaging in what is license 8 WAT 603, engaging in surveillance, stalking in the path at the curb outside, crossing path while that fake sun remains over me, and it doesn't remain over their vehicle. That's how you know that they're stalking. They're also stalking while the demons are pacing in and out of the cafe, and the demons are preparing the coffee drinks for the gang stalking patrons. That's at 9 a.m. The entity is engaging in this while, I want to be clear, they are engaging in surveillance not only around me, keeping me under surveillance everywhere that I'm going, and as I remain here, this is surveillance. They're engaging in surveillance on my communication devices on the video of the internet. This is Starbucks, the corporation headquartered in Seattle, that is subject to a criminal prosecution, as well as the employees of that venue who are acting with a noted, documented level of impunity and malice, which is relevant to the demented mind state of the psychopaths that are engaging in obsessive. Understand, stalking is born of obsession, of the obsessive act of gang stalking. and doing so also with light. You're obsessed with me, stalking me with light. You're obsessed with me, stalking me with what you're physically doing, creating noise as I do it. They're exhibiting mental illness, and it is the prosecution of the corporation and those working for that corporation. It's exposing public corruption, and public corruption with regard to gang stalking is fully capable and not impervious to a prosecution for a RICO case. It's 9:01 a.m. This is P.O.C. at 507 North Euclid Avenue.
Alrighty. 9:06 a.m. License 9AYT173. 9AYT173. This is a third party. She's gang stalking in the bathroom in custody of a minor child and doing so relevant for activity creation. The entity is crossing path and gang stalking with Starbucks, the corporation. And while she's doing so, this is just getting to the psychopaths that are stalking, always aiming light. So this demon walks out of the bathroom, and as she's walking by, light activity is created while her shadow travels across the floor, and she's already monitoring, stalking under the fake sun that's remaining where I am. It's 9:07 a.m. This is light that's behind her while she's crossing path, moving across my chest. This is, again, stalking with light, and these demons are engaging in this conduct while they keep their backs to you. Very demented behavior with the light conduct while the demon-possessed are monitoring, and it's relevant to criminal monitoring, and it's psychopathic. It's the entity engages in conduct which is analogous to like getting engaged in some sort of act of retaliation, like, I'm gonna put light on you, freak. This is, these are demons. So the mind is gone. The mind is demented, and Satan desperately does not want that exposed. And so then you have what is the very obvious mental illness that is present and prevalent through the demons that are gang stalking in the same exact specific environment, through all the ways in which have been documented even before I honed in on Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, and doing so while they are in that specific environment, targeting you and maintaining conversation and dealings with each other. That's psychopathic as well. That's the entity that engages in things such as light coming out of nowhere, moving across your chest while they're, oh my gosh, you're so, like nothing has happened. That's a psychopath. That's one that you don't want to leave your children around. That's one that you don't want to leave anything valuable around. They're thieves. They are demons that are engaging in malicious conduct. Gang stalking is the evidence of that that level of culpability. That level of willingness. That level of what is the ability to engage in malicious conduct that is intended to harm another person, and preferably unbeknownst to that person that is being subject to that sort of abuse. This is what the demon-possessed are doing while they're stalking with light, which is pursuant to monitoring, while they're all stalking one person. And this is while they are at the same time listening to everything I publish on my podcast, watching everything I publish on YouTube, and the entity is doing so in real time pursuant to hostility, while maniacal, obsessive, delusional psychopaths are then hostile about what they are keeping under surveillance about them targeting me. All right, so this third party is outside. You're looking at Satan stalking me with her back to me. Okay, Satan is using this person and is doing so while you'll see the fake sun right over me, and you'll see Kimberly. You know what Kimberly is doing with the broom? Kimberly's engaging in pacing, okay? That's nothing other than a prop. She's sweeping an engineered light. She's sweeping an engineered light while the entity has the exact same engineered light flying all about inside of the venue, while the people of the state are monitoring with her, aiding in criminal monitoring as an employee of the venue, where they are stalking in the path while engineered light is moving all about inside of the venue, where Kimberly and every other employee are gang stalking with the psychopath that came into the bathroom with a child to engage in the elements of monitoring, targeting with Starbucks and the employees, and engineered light flying out of nowhere, moving across my chest at the same time that this demon walks out of the bathroom. That's that demonic synchronicity. I just want to give that example of what this entity just committed. That's a license plate of that third party that gets into that vehicle. That is also gang stalking. That third party operating that vehicle is also a third party monitoring. But this is relevant to the sick minds that are engaging in the P.O.C. This sick mind is the Ontario Police. It's the Ontario Fire Department. It's the Ontario International Airport that are stalking me in planes and helicopters.
that are stalking me by residence as I go up and down the street, and anybody's address that I document, the entity is targeting with helicopter activity because they're all engaged in state surveillance. This is a population that's mentally deranged, and they're also very violent and obsessive with regard to losing there's no secrecy at all. And there's also no secrecy when I put your license plate and your address on the internet with regard to your engagement in that same exact pattern of conduct, which is also attached to the hallmark of stalking in helicopters, which is exactly what's going on. It's already been documented at Starbucks, where the entity is stalking with light. It is currently 9:12 a.m. Kimberly is engaging in the elements of monitoring while she's using a broom, while she's cleaning off the tables with a rag. She is in engineer light doing it. She's doing it in impossible light activity that is flying about inside of the venue with, again, the hundreds of demons that enter inside of the venue purchasing from Starbucks is relevant to the RICO case against the corporation that is gang stalking. All right, it's currently 9:12 a.m. The screenshots that I capture is what I want to make sure that you're paying attention to, because it's replicated. Every single person that's entering is engaging in that. That's why I'm capturing. You'll see the image of the person, and then it's the same light activity changing in size while it's moving about in a circular motion across the floor. And it has that's not, again, has nothing to do with the fake sun. The entity's lack of logic and just blatant stalking in a way that it never anticipated would be documented with regard to proving it, and also scrutinized with regard to the absence of any common sense. Absolutely just blatant stalking with light that demons are engaging in while they're monitoring. So the stationary light remains there while, again, this engineer light comes out of nowhere while that same shape of the door remains stationary on the floor. So what is creating, if it's not sunlight that's creating the shape on the floor that's flat, when you open that door, that same shape remains on the floor, but then you have this engineer light that begins moving across the floor. It's as demonic and impossible as a vehicle driving on Euclid and engineer light swimming across the wall on the inside, okay? As impossible as the engineer light that's dancing all over the wall of the drive-thru where Kimberly is engaging in gang stalking as an employee as well. It's direct evidence against Starbucks that's engaged in criminal monitoring, okay? And exhibiting severe mental illness. Psychopaths that are engaging in the pattern of conduct, they're also engaged in what is controlling your beverages that you purchase from them and your food that you purchase from them while they're obsessively going in and out of a bathroom, which is very highly it's nasty. They're going in and out of the bathroom with regard to stalking. They're doing so while they're focused on me, not their hygiene, and going in and out and touching that bathroom door. And I seriously doubt that they are religiously washing their hands in the same way that they're religiously pacing around me, going in and out of that bathroom with regard to maintaining the elements of monitoring. And under all circumstances, they could state that, oh, I washed my hands every 27 times, all 27 times that I went in and out of the bathroom on that day, because I'm really into hygiene. When you're working at Starbucks, the entity that's engaged in the P.O.C. license plate 7PGJ968, gang stalking while the demons are pacing in and out of the door, including the Staples employee, the African-American male. Same exact impossible light while he's delivering to the third party, okay? I already captured him in the Staples vehicle and the license plate. He's engaged in the P.O.C. at 9:14 a.m. with that third party. This is group conduct, so this is just focusing on the entity that's around me. Chevron, Arco, the City of Ontario, the population, Unicare Healthcare Center, which you already know, all of the entity of the City of Ontario. The City of Ontario is gang stalking, big picture, but nonetheless, that license plate is engaging in surveillance by being parked on the curb and then driving off, which is all they're doing is babysitting in the path. Babysitting in the path, coming in and sitting in the cafe, babysitting in the path, and another demon comes and replaces it. It's gang stalking. So the entity is engaging in what is gang stalking while they're working at an establishment that's dealing with food and beverages. You don't want those employees in and out of the bathroom. Absent of what is actually relieving themselves and thoroughly washing their hands, they're gang stalking in the bathroom. So this is something that is very troubling with regard to their preparation of drinks and food of people that they're selling it to. But again, the people of the state, they don't care. They're all gang stalking. But I'm just speaking to what is relevant, what's also being exposed about them while they're obsessively going in and out of the bathroom. Nobody that is engaging in what is that heavy presence in the bathroom is somebody that I want dealing with my food. In other words, just so that you know, this is what Starbucks is engaging in while they're gang stalking. Heavy presence in and out of the bathroom. Unless everybody has diarrhea every day that I'm here because they're pacing in and out heavily. And it's also relevant that it is gang stalking because that's why the fake sun is over me while they're pacing heavily in and out of the bathroom, which is not fitting of somebody that's working at a cafe, dealing with food and drink regularly while they're concentrating presence in a bathroom to stalk somebody at that. Okay, it's currently 9:16 a.m. I just wanted to put that out there with regard to those who are witnessing the exposed corrupt businesses like Starbucks, who are demons that are preparing your drinks, your coffee at the cafe known as Starbucks. Throughout California, it's also throughout the country, because the specific environment lets you know what Starbucks in Kentucky is doing. Righty, it's currently 9:16 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, ongoing criminal monitoring, federal stalking, specifically Title 18, amongst other federal statutes. The entity is engaging in criminal surveillance, and the government has no warrant or probable cause for Starbucks to be engaging criminal monitoring via the business of Starbucks. Literally walking in, being present in the venue, working at the venue is all accomplishing criminal surveillance. And it's also domestic terrorism while they're demons engaging in a psychopathic pattern of conduct, which is inherently psychologically torturous behavior designed to target and monitor an American citizen. The government has no constitutional bases whatsoever to engage in what Starbucks employees, including Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, Tabitha, are engaging in. And again, the third party who has a All right, the third party coward, the weirdo that's stalking me in the male restroom, his license is 8UQJ918. He is also an employee who doesn't show his name on his name tag. I'm identifying him by his license plate, the gray Kia 5, license 8UQJ918. They're all engaged in federal stalking with the demons that are the third parties, the people of the state that are engaging in surveillance by sitting in and coming in repeatedly as one entity. They're not separate and they're not strangers. They're tied together by the fake sun that's still present out the same window facing Euclid Avenue as of 9:49 a.m. And they're engaging in what is stalking with light, again, tying them all together, an impossible occurrence for it to happen one time, thousands of times, which is relevant to psychological torture that Starbucks, the company, is engaging in. If you'll pay attention to the big picture, I'm documenting Aveneth Capital Management engaging in psychological torture while they are a property management company monitoring an occupant of an apartment complex. And this is exactly the same pattern of conduct. It's the same while I am an employee of third-party speaker companies, and the engineered light that is dynamic on my bedroom ceiling, moving from the ceiling down onto the wall, the flashing of light on my ceiling inside of my bedroom, the engineered light going from my living room window across my kitchen ceiling onto my cabinets, and then appearing and disappearing as I start capturing it on video. My shadow appearing above my head in my living room, in my apartment in Los Angeles at Alvarado Gardens. As I open up the door and you're seeing the shadow of the palm trees that are outside on the ground, and it's all shade inside of my apartment. It's shade on my front, outside of my front door, but you're looking at light manifesting in the shade and the shadow of the palm trees. That's all impossible light. That's what Starbucks is filled with. They're monitoring. And Starbucks is engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct that LAPD, the city of LA, is documented engaging in on the record, and that the city of Ontario, the Ontario Police Department in particular that's being disbanded, they're gang stalking through the corrupt business practices of Starbucks that its employees like to go in and out of the bathroom a lot while they then go back and prepare drinks and food, and engaging in heavy bathroom stalking behavior. Not only mentally demented, but it's also not very good hygiene practice with regard to dealing with food and drink. This is where the entity is stalking with light and doing so under that fake sun. The entity is engaging in this while trying to stifle uploading of the audio of the podcast. That's also going to be documented, and this is the same pattern of conduct that Ontario police engaged in last night, following me around in helicopter. The entity is gang stalking with what they have at their disposal. Literally using a business is exposing yourself to a criminal prosecution for the ongoing conspiracy with the state to engage in criminal monitoring, and actually engaging in not only the conspiracy of the crime, but engaging in this. They're literally engaged in the pattern of conduct and the body of evidence. What LA did is on the record is prosecuting the people of the state at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue. The light activity all inside of my apartment, never happening naturally one time. And these demons, unsophisticated third parties are on video engaging in the direct evidence of criminal monitoring, which the corporation and they themselves are liable for criminally prosecuted for, which was gang stalking under Title 18. It's surveillance. All right, and the population aids in their own demise. This is the demon-possessed, those who are already dead. They're aiding their own destruction. If you're looking at the ongoing tragic corroborative evidence that they provide against each other, as you're looking at that pattern of conduct, it's exposed. And then as the demons engage in that P.O.C, it's speaking to what everybody else is engaging in. And it's what they're engaging in is also supernatural. And you're engaging, all of them are engaging in a pattern of conduct that's never happening under natural circumstances, not one time. And they're all engaging and replicating that. This is how you're understanding that strangers are not stalking. An entity is stalking. And they're stalking in places like Starbucks, and Starbucks itself is a stalker, a gang stalker, okay? It's currently 9:52 a.m. And again, the people of the state monitoring with the people that are entering into the venue. It includes Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, Tabitha, and another male employee whose name I don't know, but an image I've already documented him, and the entity is going to produce the gang stalking employees nonetheless. But the entity is engaging in, and I want to be clear, Starbucks is not ignorantly engaging in gang stalking. For me to be at over 6 Starbucks and documenting the P.O.C, replete with the fake sun, gang stalking by plane, helicopter, Starbucks is not ignorantly engaging in domestic terrorism in the United States. And nor is that reasonable to contend that. The entity is engaging in a pattern of conduct that Starbucks is liable for, but you need to understand that this public corruption is embedded into society. Surveillance is underway throughout this country, and public corruption is inherent to how the entity is engaging in everything that it's doing, including the way that businesses are ran, where surveillance is built into that business. It's built into, and it's underway while they are making money and simultaneously engaging in federal stalking, monitoring with the government that's engaging in that surveillance system. It's currently 9:53 a.m. where, again, I'm documenting one demon after another, after another, after another, after another, after another, engaging in terrorism together as one entity is gang stalking. One entity engaging in psychological torture, one entity engaging in what is surveillance of the evidence against. I just understand how that's relevant to a federal case. For example, if a federal prosecutor is bringing in a case against you, and then you're foolish enough to try to surveil that federal case or that federal court, or the evidence against you that's going to be submitted to federal court, that's what the entity is doing. Okay, and it's relevant to prosecuting them. Okay, it's currently 9:54 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, 9:55 a.m. Demon crossing path, coming out of the bathroom as I start recording under the fake sun. Again, as I stop recording, the demons who are, again, let me identify the sex offenders for you. Again, Amelia, whose license plate I read, she drives the dark purple or blue or black. It's a dark color. It's like the box Scion. She's gang stalking. I read her license plate. It begins with a 6 this morning. While gang stalking with the demons that are engaging in surveillance, tracking my steps, maintaining activity as I approach the Starbucks. Amelia is still here gang stalking. She is a sex offender. Brian, who is documented, he's a documented sex offender, stalking me in the bathroom. You'll see him looking very awkward as I'm capturing his image while he's walking out across the path under the fake sun. That's already on the record. Brian is here gang stalking. He is a sex offender, hostile while I document him. Elena, the same. Alana, the same. Kimberly, the same. And Tabitha, again, documented stalking coming out of a bathroom. The entity is maintaining the people of the state through the employees working for Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue in Ontario. And as I end the previous recording at 9:55 a.m., these sex offenders are engaging in what is, again, psychopathic conduct, highly passive aggressive, very mentally deranged, while I am seated in the shade inside of the venue where no sunlight's going to reach into the sofa, first of all. So they're all walking in the evidence, and they're also all listening to me while they are, in fact, stalking. And they're all demons while they're engaging in criminal conduct, which a corporation, Starbucks, is going to be liable for. It is liable for it. And what Montclair, the Montclair Police Department is doing at the Starbucks in Montclair on Ramona and Hope Boulevard is prosecuting. They're prosecuting each other. What the Pomona Starbucks is doing off of Temple is prosecuting these demons at 507 North Euclid Avenue. What the Pomona Starbucks is doing off of the from around the corner from the Pomona Transit Center, which I documented in 2022 as well. This is prosecuting these demons at 507 North Euclid Avenue, and it's also prosecuting the corporation because the pattern of conduct by the company itself is documented. What the entity is doing at the Starbucks in Pasadena, where my shadow is appearing above the heads of all those demons working in that Starbucks, on the inside of the Starbucks, what I've in Pasadena. I'm laughing because the entity is so unsophisticated. I'll just keep it at that adjective, because mental illness is actually not funny, but this is providence, because the entity that's mental, they're psychopathic and they're delusional, and they call themselves elite. They call themselves powerful because they engage in gay sex and group sex. That's not powerful, that's perverted. But nonetheless, the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they are shown to be a bunch of clowns and buffoons who are very psychopathic. And so while these sex offenders that are working at Starbucks right now, again, their names are Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, Tabitha, and one female whose name I don't know. I have her heavily documented in images, and I also have this male documented in images, and they're employees nonetheless. I'm sitting on the side of the cafe, and as I in my recording at 9:55, again, my face again accosted like there's a photo shoot going on with a camera in my face, and there's no such photo shoot. These are demons that engage in this weird, I got you with light. These are demons, and they're psychopaths. Okay, you need to know who these sex offenders are. Again, Elena, Alana, Brian, Amelia, Tabitha, and this third party whose license plate is, again, driving the gray Kia K5. He likes to stalk me. They're all engaged in monitoring my vagina together, every single last one of them. They're violent sex offenders who are also engaged in ongoing harassment, terrorism, and psychological torture to the same person that is prosecuting them and publicly identifying them on the internet, and I will also be identifying them in federal court. The entity, again, right now, touching with impossible light at 10 a.m. This is, again, attributed to Starbucks. This is what the entity does with helicopter. This is what the entity does with planes. This is exhibiting the mental illness of Elena and Tabitha. And let me get this third party's license plate again. This third party, who is, again, a sex offender, monitoring my vagina in the bathroom as well, while they are stalking and molesting with impossible light in real time while they are monitoring. That's why that supernatural occurrence is happening as I'm identifying them by name at the venue. License 8UQJ918. And again, these demons are Amelia, Brian, Elena, this is a Caucasian female, Alana, this is a short, I guess a Latina female, olive skin, on video exhibiting her severe mental illness and her obsession with my vagina. She's a sex offender, while they're all molesting me with engineer light, while they're stalking in the path and making coffee in a noisy manner with regard to stalking with noise. In real time, while I'm being molested by the sex offenders that do work at the Starbucks, specifically at 507 North Euclid Avenue in Ontario, California. And their mental illness is going to be part at the forefront of each and every one of their prosecutions while they're engaging in the pattern of conduct, which is relevant to the RICO case that the Starbucks, the corporation, is liable for while they're engaged in federal stalking. Molesting me with light is direct evidence of federal stalking. They're doing so in concert with the people of the state that are engaged in federal stalking and is severely mentally deranged while they engage in flashing of light conduct, trying to run like light bandits because I'm documenting them. The psychopaths that are engaging in the P.O.C. are doing so while they're working for the third-party company. That is, again, Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, Tabitha, and they're doing so in concert with the entity that is targeting in the venue, pacing all around while engaging in what is molestation and harassment with engineer light, which is already captured on video. So the light that you see moving all across the ceiling, all across the walls, that you see in my bedroom, in my apartment in Los Angeles, this is what they're molesting me with. None of that is light activity. That's a product of the sun. And the sun is not simultaneously over LA at Alvarado Gardens and also remaining over these demons who are engaging in the sex offense of molestation. And they are admittedly engaging in what is keeping my vagina under surveillance, which Starbucks and every sex offender at Starbucks working here are sharing in, and admittedly so. With the population, these are violent sex offenders by the thousands, keeping my genitalia under surveillance. And they're doing so with regard to exposing their severe mental illness while I'm in real time narrating the fact that they are engaging in what is molesting my person, molesting my face with impossible light because they're engaging in surveillance, federal stalking, and psychopaths are hostile while you expose the fact that they're stalking you and that they're mentally deranged while they do it, and they're also keeping my genitalia in the bathroom at Starbucks under surveillance. surveillance. That is again Amelia, Brian, Elena, Alana, Kimberly, Tabitha, and the rest of the males whose license plate I've already read. He drives the gray Kia K5. And this is again Ocean. Ocean is engaged in what is managing this venue that's engaged in federal group stalking and monitoring. The entity that's relying on gang conduct, the whole gang is being prosecuted. That's again the joke that's on the demon possessed, and it's not funny. The entities, it's also not funny to keep my vagina under surveillance, and I'm going to prosecute each one of these sex offenders individually as they're acting as an entity that provided evidence against them last night, stalking me in the neighborhood with helicopter, which is Ontario Police Department's engagement in the P.O.C. while psychopaths who are gang stalking with that police department engage in flinging light around all over the place while they're monitoring you, and they're exhibiting severe mental illness while they do that. You know that they're mentally ill because they're keeping genitalia under surveillance unbeknownst to American citizens while they're making money in doing so. Running in and out of bathrooms to engage in stalking someone and then going back into the kitchen to prepare drinks and food. Those are the demons that are engaging in the sex offense of molestation with impossible light, which is the admission to engaging in monitoring, which the government has no warrant or probable cause to engage in. Okay, it's currently 10:04 a.m. This is P.O.C. This is the sexual violence that the sex offenders that Starbucks hires to engage in state surveillance. Starbucks hires sex offenders. Starbucks, the corporation, is a sex offender. Starbucks engages in harassment and terrorism as you expose its corruption. Starbucks engages in severely demented behavior like stalking you with light and touching you with light while they keep their back to you like, I didn't, that mental illness. That's what's going to be at the forefront of the prosecution of such sex offenders that include, again, Amelia and Brian and Elena, Alana, Kimberly, and Tabitha. Those are the ones that are here right now. But as I've already shown, including Ocean, this is the name of this third-party gang stalking manager, an oxymoron. These are domestic terrorists, and they like to call themselves titles that make it seem like they're something. They're not. They're a bunch of demons and they're sex offenders. They're stalking. The entities engaging in this in Ocean is also relevant for the gang stalking that the employees under her leadership are engaging in, and they're all doing it in the name of Starbucks, representing Starbucks, incriminating Starbucks, and then incriminating the demons that are sitting around drinking Starbucks coffee, gang stalking. Okay, it is currently 10:05 a.m. This is the entity that's engaging in that as a means of what is harassment. While you're reporting the stalker engages in sexual violence. While you're reporting the stalker engages in demonic behaviors such as stalking with light while they're monitoring you. And all you do is capture that on video, which I have a plethora of video of the Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue, gang stalking from sunrise until sunset at that, okay? It is currently 10:05 a.m. This is P.O.C. All right, it's 11:33 a.m. and you are looking at the fake sun that's remaining over 507 North Euclid Avenue. Again, this is an ongoing record showing the entity contradicting itself, which is evidence of an unnatural environment, an environment that is remaining over me, which is absolutely impossible to be the sun, the behavior of the sun and everything in the natural environment is not personal to all of us. The entity is keeping the fake sun as I'm documenting the city of Ontario yesterday, this hefty set African-American woman that's molesting me with impossible light, like the entity is doing at Starbucks. That's a pattern of conduct. While the fake sun is over the building of Ovid Family Community Library, and I'm documenting her image, I'm documenting the fake sun reflecting off of her driver's side window, I'm documenting the people of the state gang stalking at that venue, including sounding helicopter activity. And that's at 10 o'clock when I enter that library. I'm capturing the Ontario Police Department gang stalking at 9:49 a.m. at 215 E.C. Street, the Ovid Family Community Library, where the entity is keeping the fake sun. The fake sun is remaining over 507 North Euclid Avenue, where Elena and Brian, Kimberly, Mayo, Amelia are gang stalking as employees and stalking in and out of the bathroom in concert with the demons that are walking as engineer light remains on the floor inside of the Starbucks, where you'll see a demon stalking in the path, stalking in the shoes of Starbucks. The criminal conduct that's underway inside of Starbucks is attributed to Starbucks, including while their patrons buying the drinks and food, engaging in what is profiting from the pattern of conduct together as an entity. Remember, it's criminal monitoring, so this entity conduct is that which is attributed to the corporation Starbucks. The entity is engaging in what is pacing in impossible light that's appearing on the inside. It's still here. This is what I'm documenting at 6 and 7. When it's stretched all the way inside of the venue, across, where their shadows are moving across my person, while they're all engaging in a repeated molestation together. It's a satanic orgy, while the entity is always stalking with light. During the day, it's occurring by engineered light, which is never the product of sunlight that's reaching into buildings like I show you, in the same way that sunlight doesn't twist around on the inside and also outside of the same door that they're opening and closing with regard to stalking with light. The entity is stalking with light while this engineered light that they're walking in, they're stalking with light. While the entity has engineered light flying all across the ceilings and all the walls, while the demon-possessed are driving on Euclid Avenue, which is pacing, they're stalking with light. While the entity is keeping the fake sun over the Starbucks, which is in direct opposition of what the entity did yesterday at the same time, where I'm capturing it over the elevator window of the venue of the Ovid Family Community Library when I'm going into the bathroom, and you're seeing these demons that are stalking, these psychopaths that are engaging what is positioning themselves. While they're tracking my steps, they do the same thing in bathrooms. And this is the entity that is gang stalking into the afternoon, where the entity is keeping that fake sun over the Ovid Family Community Library. I did not return to Starbucks during the 11 a.m. hour. I remain at the Ovid Family Community Library, which is south of this address, where the people of the state are not walking under the sun in a natural environment. They're engaging in the malicious and psychopathic pattern of conduct of targeting, which is proven through the maintenance of engineered light all over, everywhere, which is also incurring dynamic light coexisting with their presence in the path while they're moving, while they're driving, while they're flying, while they're walking, while they're skating, while they're biking, while they're engaging what is pushing strollers, while they're engaging what is, in other words, stalking in that environment. This is where the entity is targeting by the Ontario Police Department as a matter of documentation, a wealth of it, and by the Ontario International Airport, where again, there's no terminals close by Palm or Laurel or G Street, 325 West G Street, where they are stalking all night, as I'm documenting, and the Ontario police are engaged in gang stalking by helicopter, as the entity maintains aerial surveillance while the demons, who are the people of the state, are inside of this venue working for the third-party company Starbucks and engaging in what is purchasing drinks and engaging in federal stalking at the same time, which is relevant to the RICO case against the state of California that is engaging in what is criminal monitoring in concert with the people of the state who are using their businesses, they're using their homes, they're using everything that they have at their disposal with regard to criminal monitoring that's happening in the specific environment, which is where you will be prosecuted for stalking where you live, where you work, just like I documented last night. In the Ontario police engaged in what is documented terrorism, following me around while I'm documenting the people of the state throughout the neighborhood. This pattern of conduct is also clearly seen while the fake sun remains over one address, but the day prior it's remaining over a population of people that are surrounding me, while that sun is not possibly over the same address, where again, Elena, Amelia, Mayo, Brian, and Alana and Elena, all the demons that I documented, stalking with light, also on video. They're all on video, stalking with light, providing direct evidence to prosecute the company and to prosecute each of them for criminal monitoring. The supernatural pattern of conduct is underway, and the demented and perverted pattern of conduct of stalking in bathrooms is also documented, while the entity kept the fake sun today over the 507 North Euclid Avenue. And by the way, it's present as of 6 a.m. 7 a.m. it's 11. So that's the entity that's also, as you just isolate the universe, like the entity does, keeps the fake sun over me at one building. As you isolate it, the sun's not going to still be here. It's not going to be on the same street. It's not going to be over the same building. It's not going to be over the same group of people working in that building. The sun is never going to be in Florida when you engage in this obvious iteration of the pattern of conduct. Very ignorant, okay? But so is the stalking with light conduct. And you will see the playlist, if you will, a long list of this is just a sample, because the prosecution of Starbucks, which represents how you prosecute the people of the state, it's complete. And when I say that sex offenders monitoring my vagina working at Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue is complete, and every last one of them are surrounded with evidence that would put each one of them individually in federal prison, that's exactly what I mean. They're engaging in what is a pattern of conduct which is documented. It's in the description box of the podcast. You can look at it, and you're also going to look at the duration of time as you're looking at evidence of stalking with light from 6 a.m. until 6 p.m., replete with the entity gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department. And the entity is doing, that's just the evidence with regard to the impossible light activity, all the spectacular acts with engineered light, none of it's sunlight, and that's where you're recognizing criminal surveillance, and then you're witnessing mental illness, because the psychopaths are engaging in what is a secret system that's no longer a secret, and you're looking at how they conduct themselves, how they behave themselves, where public corruption is underway, and you're not supposed to be aware of it. then you're seeing the psychopaths when you're aware of it, like I am, and I'm documenting it, and you're seeing them having nothing else to do but still engage in this demonic and obvious pattern of conduct while they're just keeping a straight face and not talking to you like it's not happening, which is not the appearance of innocent people. It's not the appearance of normal people. It's the appearance of sick people who are all demons. All of them are demon possessed. It is public corruption exposed, and it's mental illness to be addressed, okay? It's entirely malicious, it's sexually perverted, it's psychopathic, it's psychologically harmful as well. While the entity is targeting, remember this is relevant to Jason Isaac Fields targeting me with the state of California. This is relevant to Tracy Banks targeting me, relying on gang stalking through what are supposed to be ostensibly strangers. They're not strangers, while the fake Sun documentation proves identification of that targeted individual, specific knowledge about who they are, while the entity follows you, stalks you with that environment in order to identify you by demons who are also targeting you with impossible light, which is what I'm documenting at Starbucks, where they are going to be prosecuted for being violent sex offenders, molesting my body and hitting my face with engineered light, because the psychopaths who are maniacal as they engage in that are listening to, that is engaging in surveillance of the evidence against them in real time, which no federal court is going to tolerate. This is the government that's engaging in an unprecedented level of corruption and interference with the federal investigation and federal case against itself, and doing so as though they're not going to pay the penalty like any other federal defendant would. All right, this is what I'm documenting when I capture these details. It's relevant to their prosecution, and they're going to answer for those details, which I am diligent enough to keep record of, because I'm going to prosecute for these details that are relevant to how you secure justice for any American citizen. All right, this is government action. State of Brothers. State of Brothers is being documented. This is the pattern of conduct. Remember everything that's on the record, and there's a lot on the record. For example, what LA is doing is prosecuting Starbucks, little old Starbucks in Ontario, based on the environment alone. But this is not just about one business, it's not just about one city, it's the state of California and the U.S. government's pattern of conduct. The U.S. government that conspired to murder me, the U.S. government that conspired to steal property from me, and this is what is incentivizing a bunch of psychopaths, a bunch of maniacal sex offenders to keep me under surveillance in the neighborhood Starbucks. That's what's relevant to going to federal prison, for hitting me with impossible light outside of Starbucks, for stalking me with commercial planes at the Starbucks, for stalking all night long by helicopter while I document the people of the state. What do you think they're doing in here? They're gang stalking. This is how the P.O.C. is underway. All right, it's currently 11:43 a.m. This is P.O.C. The images of the engineer light inside of the cafe and a demon crossing path inside of the cafe while they're all pacing around, engaging in conversation, passive-aggressive gang stalking, which is the outward demonstration of mental illness. Why malicious psychopaths and corrupt government actors are acting through an unsophisticated and unintelligent entity that's supposed to be the mask whereby the government can stalk you, follow you around, keep you under surveillance, molest you with light, and maintain presence all around you, okay? It is currently, again, 11:43 a.m. This is P.O.C. at 507 North Euclid Avenue. Ah, how did you know? Well, that's good. Thank you, sir. Thank you. That's mail. That's engaging in what is providing me a cup of ice before I have to ask for it. They really want me to go. They know I've been documenting, but that's fine. They're engaging in what is the P.O.C. The entity is surrounding. UPS is gang stalking. You already know that. At the Unicare Healthcare Center, the fake sun is over the back parking lot, the same back parking lot where I'm here at 6 in the morning. This is a fully exposed pattern of conduct. There's no sun. That's over the Ovid Family Community Library. That's the identification of the fact that the City of Ontario is targeting me, like the Ontario Police Department, unfortunately exposed about all the people of the state already through the 85 plus videos of stalking me day and night, post the recent kidnapping on May 29, 2025. Amelia's license plate is again 6ZEU331, license 9GXW528, 9SWZ699, 8ZQN948, JRX1990, that's Texas, 44193R3, license 6WTA802. And remember, everything that I'm documenting, it's relevant to the people of the state, like Tracy Banks, like the demons engaging in kidnapping, Nathan Morgan, C. Torres, L. Martinez, B. Hook, who are going to federal prison, gang stalking police officers, which is an oxymoron to be addressed in the federal prosecution of a government keeping an American citizen under surveillance, like Corporal Tadosky, gang stalking with the people of the state via a traffic stop. Federal prison, that's an unlawful threat to my life. License DG70C65, gang stalking, by the way, at this same Starbucks at nightfall. License 9EVA224, gang stalking in the same way that Amelia was this morning at Starbucks when the entity is sounding plane activity, which you're never going to hear when planes are not engaging in state surveillance and they are appropriately taking off from the terminals that are available at the airport at 2500 and 2900 Airport Drive, which you're not going to hear any plane activity, and you certainly are going to see them flying over Starbucks, adjacent to Starbucks, over the intersection, competing with the sound of my voice, hovering over the San Bernardino Housing Authority off of Lemon while they're stalking in the path, wanting to be in the line of vision, which is very foolish when you're being prosecuted by the person that you're gang stalking. These are the imbeciles that are engaged in this pattern of conduct. License 9EVA224. They're all stalking with the City of Ontario. UPS 45060D3. Closing their door while they know that they're being documented. 45060D3. P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently, again, 11:46. The entity's keeping the fake sun. It's not just Ovid Family Community Library. Maybe it's not just day by day when you're looking at the record for prosecuting an entity that is gang stalking through the obvious engagement of what is engineer light and also the unnatural environment. For example, the sun that's over the Ovid Family Community Library in a natural environment, that's where the sun is going to be 24 hours later. And that's not the case because the entity is stalking within a natural environment because they are engaging in what is state surveillance. It's occurring under where the demons are engaging in ritualistic pacing under that fake sun. 6SCE135 stalking with impossible light across the dumpster of the Starbucks while they are crossing path with me, which is evident because the fake sun's no longer over the entrance of Ovid, excuse me, not Ovid, yes, not Ovid Family, but I meant to say Starbucks. It's right here while I'm standing in the parking lot. 7ZDW186 stalking, Latino male. Gang stalking license again, 7ZDW186. Remember what the Ontario International Airport is gang stalking and the Ontario Police Department that's gang stalking all night. This is the ceaseless pattern of conduct that's underway as you document the population maintaining criminal surveillance in violation of Title 18, Section 2261A, subsections 1 and 2. And this is the ability to prosecute under RICO. Okay, they're violating federal stalking statutes. They're violating the government that's engaging in criminal surveillance via them. And this is, as I've showed you, what is the criminal pattern of conduct of surveillance in the demonic environment. License 7KOE732, 5YEF 439. And these are demons pacing under the fake sun that's over me right here at the back parking lot at E Street and Euclid, where the entity is keeping the fake sun after 7 p.m. And so you'll see the list of videos. That's a long list of videos. 6WTA802, 8XDX556. It's a long list of videos of evidence of criminal surveillance, and it's relevant to a RICO prosecution of Starbucks, the corporation, which represents the people of the state. Your ability to prosecute a company like Starbucks is your ability to prosecute the people of the state, the population that are in the shoes of the government. They're not private citizens while they're gang stalking with the government. All right, it's currently 11:48 a.m. SOFNSLW. Stalking amongst the population that is criminally monitoring. While you'll see the fake sun over me at the Euclid and D Street, where the U.S. Bank is, where I've documented many times. The Ontario Police at 1251 gang stalking with UPS. Because UPS, they're gang stalking with everybody, but they're gang stalking with UPS who's stalking in the path with light activity, flashing light. 12:51 p.m. At 9:40, approximately 9:40, Corey Watson, the Ontario Police, flying over my head at that same intersection. And doing so while the Ontario International Airport, you'll see in the images, just doing a donut in the sky, not engaging in what is actual flights from the airport to a destination. I've never been on a plane that was headed to a destination, and they took off from the airport and then made a donut in the sky, and just to go back for funsies. The Ontario International Airport's engaging in this on a ceaseless, regular basis. All right, and you're also going to see the fake sun over me while the Ontario International Airport does that. 7YEX008. 5XUB760, 6YXD221, 8H38507, gang stalking with the City of Ontario, LESROCC, license 74024G1,
License 16522P2, stalking with the Ontario International Airport and the Ontario Police Department by helicopter. While the fake sun is over me at the downtown Ontario apartments at 320 West G Street right now at 11:55 a.m., where the sun is not already over the Ovid Family Community Library. That's the same Ontario police that was stalking on 8th Street in El Morado Court with the people of the state that you document by address. They all engaged in terrorism last night. License 9SVM364, terrorism. Am I in your way? Excuse me. They all engaged in terrorism, which is relevant for a federal prosecution for terrorism. 6VAH 431. This is ongoing hovering stalking by one population. Stalking in the path. 8F22207, 8TJL823, 9ATS496. This is what Amelia and Mayo and Alana and Elena and Seth and the people of state gang stalking at Starbucks. This is what they're all engaging with that police department. And guess what I'm going to prosecute them with? 5MDA295, 7LZD386. All right, that's the police department that's entirely illegitimate. They are on the record as being obsessed with my vagina. They are entirely illegitimate and they are being disbanded, especially when there is heavy evidence, again, of clear stalking. It's already established as stalking because I can't go around chasing helicopters in Ontario, and that's how I'm getting this body of evidence. It's quite to the contrary. License 9LTL149, and not only that, it's happening with regard to the specific environment, which is also supernatural, and it's evidence of stalking by a police department engaging in a pattern of kidnapping who clearly doesn't care that its demons that are working for that department are going to prison. And that's including Nathan Morgan, L. Martinez B. Hook, and C. Torrance. License 7RFT950, because they're going to prison. They don't even have an argument. The Ontario police is established. They're already clear. There's no controversy in dealing with these demons. They're being disbanded. And everyone that I engaged, everybody that ever put their hands on me, anybody that ever engaged in kidnapping while they're gang stalking, proven, they're going to prison. License 9JMH990, 9FPK599, 9NPJ177. And those are, again, they're all done with law enforcement. Ontario police, they're not going to any other department to ever be in law enforcement again. They're done with law enforcement. You engage in domestic terrorism, just like a gang stalking immigrants out of this country, you're getting deported and you're not coming back. It's as simple as that. License 8PPJ627, 7UXM283. And the Ontario police are stalking with the people of the state who are stalking, proven through what is an environment that is personalized to me and conducive for what you understand is surveillance, criminal monitoring, which you're doing while you're stalking. You are stalking while you're doing that. It is currently 11:58 a.m. Ontario police like to be engaged in a documented pattern of stalking and being put all over the internet as a violent sex offending agency, and that's not okay, but it's okay with me to publish it because you need to know, because this is what corrupt law enforcement agencies are doing throughout the country. This lawlessness, this impunity, this ongoing appetite for stalking, flinging light around, they're psychopaths, and understand that that is going to be removed from law enforcement. Because that sickness that you see, gang stalking in Starbucks, all it's doing is putting on a uniform and a badge, dressing up like it's a cop, is Satan, and it has no business in law enforcement. Stalking a woman in the middle of the night in the neighborhood, flying over all the demons' houses. They don't have any cause for alarm. It's the routine pattern of conduct in Ontario. They're all a bunch of gang stalking demons, all of them. All right, they're engaging in this P.O.C. and they're doing so with the entity that is providing evidence against them. That's exactly how you prosecute a gang stalking entity, because each other's criminal conduct is incriminating, serving to prosecute the other. Just like when you commit robbery with your partner and they engage in killing somebody during that inherently violent attack, you're going down for federal murder as well. Okay, the entity that's stalking in helicopter, you're engaging in gang stalking with that police department as well, threatening me while you are engaged in surveillance, and you know that you're being documented. You're not going to threaten any whistleblower. All right, you're not going to threaten any whistleblower and stay out of prison. You're not going to escape a criminal record. I know that. Currently, let me get the fake sun where the entity's stalking by Ontario International Airport. And remember, this is what they're doing over the 325 West G Street, where there's no terminals. I'm even closer to the airport over here. So you are suspending, remaining at a low elevation to fly even farther away from the airport to then take off over 325 West G Street. Those are the buffoons. They have monkey poo for brains. And all you do is document it.
because describing it is not inadequate. Describing it is not enough. It's inadequate with regard to prosecuting for the unprecedented allegations that are made by a government that is gang stalking. It is a sex offender. It's a domestic terrorist. It is also a mentally ill psychopath engaging in the pattern of conduct, which is demonic. Okay, it is currently, again, let me give you the time, and I'm going to get the fake sun that's now over the Ovitt Family Community Library, as opposed to me walking toward the library, getting the sun from a distance. That's not what's happening. While a bunch of psychopaths are engaging in the system, the long existing system of state surveillance. They've been doing this for a long time. It's currently 12 p.m. on the dot, P.O.C.
Oh, just to be detailed, when I'm documenting Ontario police, they're doing so, they're gang stalking with the intent to threaten me while I document the people of the state. They're not protecting anybody, they're incriminating everyone, but this is the pattern of conduct, this is how the demons operate. Where you engage in what is exposing, documenting them, the entity will engage in gang stalking you directly by the police. And that is specific and unique to the target individual. That's why the fake sun is over my head while the police engage in helicopter activity at the moment that I'm documenting, okay? That's also the entity's pattern of conduct with its obstruction tactic. And the Ontario police is flying in a gray helicopter, and they are flying in the direction west over C Street and Euclid, where I'm located. As I begin at the traffic light to walk toward the Ovitt Family Community Library, I'm approaching 320 North Euclid Avenue. So that's where the Ontario police, as I'm documenting the Ontario International Airport, engaging in what is having nothing to do with taking flights, and engaging in just flying toward relevant position, fake sun over me, stalking, and then just making a U-turn, which is what I take pictures of as I'm documenting that, as you just heard moments ago. That's when the Ontario police, who are gang stalking every time the Ontario International Airport is stalking in commercial planes. It's the same city of Ontario. And as I recite license plates, the Ontario police are stalking in the path, flying over in the direction west over Euclid Avenue, crossing path with me, that is stalking, as I'm documenting. Okay, just want to give that detail. It's P.O.C. It's 215 East C Street, where the entity is, all they're doing is stalking in a library, engaging in ongoing tracking of my steps, every move that I make and everything that I am publishing on the internet. Demons even making noise with regard to stalking with activity. This is what Starbucks is doing as they prepare drinks and as they walk in and out of the bathroom and then go back to that area to prepare more drinks and deal with food after they're obsessively pacing in and out of bathrooms to monitor me. It's P.O.C. It's currently 12:05 p.m. That's F Street, and that's pacing. Monitoring with the City of Ontario. All right, the people of the state are crossing path, maintaining contact with engineered light, maintaining light in a dark parking lot, just stalking in the path. All right, and they're doing the same thing when I'm walking in this direction toward the Starbucks, Ontario International Airport, sounding planes, while the demon's in the parking lot of Starbucks. Drive-through is empty. They prefer to go inside so that they can cross path with me as upon exit. The same elements of plane activity, light activity, and relevant positioning. License 8 UWF 896. License 8 AUL 180. License 9DCV 076. The entity maintaining impossible light activity as well. Here is an example. This is my shutter. Here's one. There's a taller one. And there is a third one over here as well. You can see, I'll move around so you can see it. It's appearing in the shade and the darkness. There's multiple levels. It's not just plain light and darkness here. It's engineered light. Okay, this is P.O.C. and that's not light activity that's caused from normal light. This is a whole engineered demonic environment where you're stalking in the path, and the significance of touching with light is relevant to monitoring. The significance of being in the path with light is relevant to monitoring, and that's stalking. That's the City of Ontario stalking as a population, and they all want to touch the person in the same way that engineered light is touching me right now. As you proceed, this is upon leaving the Ovitt Family Community Library. That's the Aegis Treatment Center. So when the Ontario International Airport, there's no terminals over here, so they're not taking off over Euclid. The entity is stalking, and I documented it right here, the same thing, and you saw the flashing of light, my upright shadow on that building. This is stalking with light, and the Ontario International Airport is stalking with the people of the state who are maintaining presence all around, including Laurelwood Apartments. They're in relevant position monitoring. That's why All the elements are satisfied right now. This is my shadow that's at a distance away from me, upright on the wall. Impossible light activity, and the impossible light activity is relevant to what is demonic. This is Title 18 federal stalking. This is P.O.C. It is currently 9:05 p.m. Alrighty, as soon as I stop moving, the entity maintaining activity where it is that I'm situated. That's what Ontario International Airport is doing, and this is the entity flying over my head at the TABOR Professional Building, and this is pacing, monitoring together. That's P.O.C. This is criminal conduct of the same Ontario Police Department. It's all going toward the disbanding of that department. That is stalking and monitoring while the people of the state and the city of Ontario stalks me from place to place. This is coming from Ovitt Family Community Library. All right, and this is impossible light activity. Has nothing to do with those demons that are over there wanting to look like they're just using headlights. These are demons that are stalking with light. And the entity just flew over my head. That's an unlawful threat while they're always stalking with the people of the state whose main job is to stalk with light. Remain surrounded around me all the time, stalking with light. And the entity is engaging in aerial surveillance in doing that. This is impossible light activity as well. Not the product of driving with headlights on at a distance. Their headlights are not aiming over here at all. This is stalking with light. Very demonic. This is City of Ontario gang stalking. This is what they're doing inside of Starbucks, okay? This is why Starbucks, the corporation, is being prosecuted. What they're doing at Starbucks is what they're doing 24 hours a day, stalking. This is what they're doing inside of the Ovitt Family Community Library, stalking with light. They got multiple shadows while they're sitting there reading on their laptops, dealing with the circulation desk, talking on the phone, and engineered light, stalking with light. Inside of every venue and outside everywhere where the entity is maintaining this environment. This is criminal surveillance. And it's the outward demonstration of actually, you're recognizing surveillance, but you're recognizing what's entirely demonic. These aren't normal, healthy people. This is psychopathic behavior, okay? And it's also sexually perverted. They want to touch all over. The objective is always to touch with the light while they're stalking. Stalking in the dark, okay? Demons stalking in the dark. Listening, obsessed to everything, including monitoring my vagina in the private space. These are psychopaths. They're demon-possessed. Criminal monitoring is demonic, occurring in the demonic environment. The entity keeping the fake moon over me from my departure of the Ovitt Family Community Library, just like I'm documenting during the fake sun that remains over 507 North Euclid Avenue to 215 East C Street, and that's 0.4 miles from the beginning until the end of the day, okay? The entity is indeed obsessed, keeping an entire engineered environment over me, over a small portion of one street for the duration of the day, to the exclusion of everything else, everybody else in the rest of the country, okay? And that's just, again, when you're limiting the natural environment, the sun and whatnot, and the moon to the United States, okay? It's currently 9:14 p.m. Understanding what is stalking with light, because that's what that is, stalking with light. This is P.O.C. It's one demon after another crossing path, stalking. All right, so you're understanding this is what's going on inside of Starbucks, for example. They're stalking one demon after another, both inside of the cafe, coming in and out of the cafe, and driving around the cafe. The drive-through, F Street, Euclid, going north and south. The entity stalking in the path by aerial surveillance, where there's no airport with regard to the entity maintaining commercial planes over Starbucks, for example. And the entity is engaging what is clear targeting in the specific environment, flying over my head, just like the Ontario police are violating the law, engaging in surveillance and threatening my life in doing so. And so are the psychopaths who are the people of the state. P.O.C. Impossible light. All of that's impossible light. The shadow of cars while they're coming up the opposite side, that's not headlights. Engineered light touching all over everything while they're crossing path. It's the same pattern, stalking with light, and one demon after another. This is demonic pacing. And what you're looking at, big picture, is actually the spirit of Satan, who's using multiple people. This is Satan going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. He's doing it amongst a group of people in the engineered light. That's gang stalking. All right, it's going to be prosecuted as federal group stalking and monitoring. And this is the city of Ontario that is exposed for engaging in the United States government's pattern of conduct of targeting American citizens, as I'm exposing it in California. You're not focused on exercising when you have multiple shadows. This is crossing paths, stalking by the state. Okay, this is P.O.C. There's no airports over here. There's no terminals over here.
The Ontario Police Department has already shown what the City of Ontario is focused on, which is gang stalking. And the engineered environment is showing the actual focus. This is malice when you're understanding the way in which gang stalking is executed, and it's highly unintelligent. All right, it's currently, again, 9:16 a.m. The City of Ontario flying directly over my head as I situate myself. That was what was happening in that parking lot over there across from the Aegis Treatment Center. I stopped for a second. The entity is maintaining activity as I stop. Okay, that's the entity that is stalking me from place to place. All right, it is currently 9:17 p.m. at the TABOR Professional Building. The entity is stalking all night long, which is surveillance, P.O.C. License plate 787K411. And I documented on video where the entity is gang stalking, engaging in aerial surveillance as a means of the people of the state who are gang stalking. I'm going to document their license plates again: 8AUL180 and 8UWF896. You can see the specific environment surrounding me in that dark parking lot where the Ontario International Airport is targeting, stalking in the path. And while the City of Ontario is gang stalking, remember it's criminal facilitation as well, enabling the population to gang stalk me as well, okay? Which the people of the state are doing as well. While they're gang stalking, they're engaging in facilitation, enabling the government to keep me under surveillance, helping the demons stalking in planes, helping the demons stalking in helicopters, helping the demons that are stalking in the path in every establishment and all the vehicles and all the means that the people of the state are maintaining. The entity is engaging in both stalking and facilitation of stalking. It's currently 9:19 p.m. At the TABOR Professional Building, where the entity is, as you just heard, flying over my head, stalking in the path with the people of the state. Rich evidence of impossible light activity. This is what is always the case, including under the fake sun. That's not the sun, and it's also not sunlight that everything is coated in, and that the demon-possessed are moving all around. And this is exposing the illusion regarding the unnatural environment that's surrounding where criminal surveillance is underway. And as an aside, but not really an aside, just a note, always being cognizant of the fact that Tracy Banks is going to federal prison for gang stalking with the people of the state, with the state of California, maintaining a fake conservatorship, and this is what is incentivizing a government to target me, to seek to try to falsely depict my character, conspiring with Tracy Banks, because Tracy Banks is not some mastermind that came up with it by herself, and she surely could not execute it by herself. Gang stalking is an outright failure to artificially engineer mental illness. It is exposing the mental illness of a demon-possessed population in a demonic environment. The demonic environment that they're existing in and that they're targeting maliciously an American citizen with is also relevant to the mental illness shared by that population. It's very sick. A population that doesn't want to be identified. They're establishing themselves as the norm when they are putting out and pushing propaganda, false propaganda about mental illness, especially when they're targeting American citizens and manufacturing the illusion of mental illness, especially by gang stalking. This is a mentally sick population that engages in this targeting system. And not only Tracy Banks, but Jason Isaac Fields. As I document on a daily basis, these two demons engaging in what is targeting by maintaining a fraudulent marriage and maintaining a fake conservatorship while they're engaging in gang stalking me and gang stalking me with the government. They're going to prison, okay? And that ongoing obsession, this ongoing impunity, the malice, the entity that's engaged in repeated kidnapping, the entity that is stalking through police departments, the entity is targeting, and that's prosecution of the government. But Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, they're at the top of the list for federal prison. That's the only thing that they're at the top of the list for, okay? They're going to federal prison. It is currently 9:21 p.m., and the entity's criminal conduct is putting each other away, and it's putting Tracy Banks in prison, license 9HUZ740. She is also going to federal prison along with her sex partner that's the same age as her son, Eric Spencer. Jason Isaac Fields, both of them are perverts, both of them are sex offenders, and they're both going to federal prison for targeting me for profit, trying to profit off of my demise, and doing so with the U.S. government. It's currently 9:22 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, the Ontario International Airport is maintaining since my last recording, the last excerpt that you just listened to, the Ontario International Airport is currently 10:14 p.m. maintaining ongoing patrolling right over 325 West G Street, where I am in the engineered light and where the people of the state are stalking with the government, stalking me together. These are psychopaths who are stalking in engineered light, stalking together as a
a group of demons. The entity flying over my head right now at 10:13 p.m. by the Ontario Police Department, doing so while the entity is maintaining ongoing incessant patrolling. They're all pacing. Every demon in a vehicle is molesting with light. So this is an ongoing perpetual sex offense, as I've defined it, as I've termed it. The entity that is gang stalking you is sexually violating you. The entity, they're also sexually violating you because your genitalia, you are under surveillance at every private space, including your home, but also in the bathroom. That's a sex offender. That is gang stalking, and doing that with a whole population, the population that's stalking you with light and molesting you with light, that's manifesting out of nowhere. This is psychopathic conduct that's also sexually perverted. The entity maintaining ongoing patrolling, keeping ongoing commercial planes that are both rising in elevation over 325 West G Street and necessarily lowering in elevation in order to engage in this idiotic form. It's just plain stalking by the airport. And the entities maintaining what is this documented evidence of stalking. But the common sense aspect is that within about 35 seconds, they're taking off here, but they're not doing that from the airport. They're coming northwest from 2500 Airport Drive to engage in this rise in elevation over 325 West G Street in the Engineer Light, where the Ontario Police is also gang stalking by helicopter. That's the police department that's being disbanded. And that is, again, Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields are indeed going to federal prison. My life remains under threat. The entity is not stealing my property, and the entity is still threatening my life, gang stalking, which Jason Isaac Fields is still monitoring, and so is Tracy Banks. They're going to federal prison. It is currently 10:16 p.m. As you can hear the people of the state gang stalking, the entity is going to be prosecuted for that. It's ongoing impunity and malice, while the police department, the airport, and the people of the state are stalking where I'm at. And this is exactly what I documented on El Morado, on 8th Street, on Bonita, and the entity engaged in what is chasing me down in helicopters with these same demons. And that's why you have the people of the state listed by address. They all shared in that act of terrorism that I documented. These are the sex offenders, and I went to their homes and documented them by address and license plate. They're stalking me while I'm at the TABOR Professional Building. It's the same entity. They are one. Okay, it is currently 10:16 p.m. This is documentation of the entity engaging in Title 18 federal stalking. And this is what the entity is doing while I'm inside of the venues, including Starbucks at 507 North Euclid Avenue and 215 East C Street, where the entity is maintaining that specific environment, keeping me under surveillance inside of those buildings. But the entity is engaging in stalking from place to place. The unprecedented act of stalking by a government that's doing it in concert with a population. And that entire population, which includes the government, is mentally ill. This is psychopathic, sexually perverted, demented behavior, and they're demons. It's demonic activity. It's currently 10:17 p.m. This is P.O.C. All right, it is 10:37 p.m. I just want to document the ongoing pacing of the Ontario Police Department. They're not flying over H Street. They're not flying over San Antonio Avenue. They're not flying over Bonita. They are maintaining ongoing helicopter activity where these demons are pacing around me in engineered light, like you can clearly see on video, stalking with the people of the state. Using a helicopter of a police department to engage in stalking an American citizen, and you're understanding that it's stalking because the entity is maintaining audible activity in the form of helicopter and doing so incessantly. It's now 10:38 p.m. The entity is maintaining helicopter activity, so the helicopter is not going anywhere, remaining present with the helicopter, and doing so in the engineered light, and doing so with regard to the entity that's engaging in what is ongoing harassment as a stalking police department. The entity is doing, now getting louder as I begin documenting it, which the entity is doing on video a plethora of times as well. This is the entity that is going to federal prison. Remember Nathan Morgan, because he's gang stalking as well on video, engaging in kidnapping, he's going to federal prison. And let me show you the entity that's been pacing by helicopter stalking right now in a visible manner. This is the Ontario Police, who you can hear on podcasts. flying over the building where I can see them. They're stalking in the path, maintaining audible activity in the form of helicopter. And they're doing this flying in my line of vision as I'm documenting via podcast, which they are stalking me and keeping me under surveillance. They're engaging in a pattern of engaging in this flying over me as I begin documenting the people of the state and documenting the Ontario Police Department in particular. The entities in the engineered light, they're stalking me. They're not doing then stalking me, as the evidence already demonstrates. The entity flying over the building is relevant to what it is that I'm discussing on podcast. It's been over 20 minutes. The entity's not going anywhere by helicopter, maintaining ongoing audible activity while the demons, who are the people of the state, are stalking in engineered light, molesting my person with engineered light, the sex offenders who are stalking in the middle of the night, and doing so while the entity is pacing around in helicopters around me, maintaining the audible activity of concentrated plane activity right here where there's no terminals. You're not taking off. You're stalking with planes and stalking by the Ontario police, who get into line of vision at the same time that I'm documenting them in engineered light. Those are the demons that are being disbanded. Again, Nathan Morgan is going to federal prison. So is Jason Isaac Fields and his sex partner. He's been engaged in a long-term sexual relationship with the pedophile Tracy Banks. They're both sex offenders, and they're both going to federal prison for being sex offenders who engaged in targeting me with the Ontario Police Department, engaging in trying to artificially engineer mental illness so that they can use a fake marriage and a criminally procured through fraud and via gang stalking, trying to artificially engineer mental illness. As the Ontario police are gang stalking, like I'm documenting on podcast and on video again, Jason Isaac Fields and Tracy Banks are going to federal prison, amongst many others, because Eric Spencer's going to federal prison as well. The people of the state gang stalking with the Ontario Police Department are going to federal prison as I document them as well. The entity is maintaining helicopter activity, and the people of the state are stalking with light, because that's what that is in engineered light. That's a stalker. And that's the Ontario police that's still monitoring while you're looking at the demons, who are the people of the state, stalking me with engineered light. Okay, it's currently 10:41 a.m. The entity's been maintaining ongoing helicopter activity, meaning not going anywhere, stalking me, and did not go anywhere right now. Flies into the line of vision, which is an unlawful threat. And they were stalking while that plane flew right over my head, and they're stalking while the Ontario police are engaging in what is stalking right here over 325 West G Street, stalking while the people of the state are exhibiting mental illness. These demons are pacing around, monitoring my physical movements, monitoring me with the demons that are maintaining aerial surveillance. Tracy Banks and Jason Fields, again, these predators are going to federal prison. All right. These two high school graduates, these two corrupt sex offenders, engaging in targeting me with an entity that has provided a body of evidence as to why they will remain in federal prison. All right. The only thing that I would be supporting is their imprisonment. Both of them. I'll be testifying against them, and everything that I'm aware of, I've already documented. Any other offenses that these two demons, these two sex offenders have committed against me, I will be pressing charges to the full extent of the law against both of them. All right. I would never share any of my property. I wouldn't give them any of my property. I wouldn't tell them about my property. The entity went behind my back with the government that's gang stalking me, trying to steal my property by engaging in what is criminal defamation while a bunch of demons are stalking you. That's never going to reflect poorly on your character. This is mental illness while you're stalking a woman in the middle of the night, a demon that's an engineered light stalking in the path, concentrating on their communication device, which is what all the demon-possessed third parties are doing. This is currently, again, this is G Street, while the entity is maintaining light activity. The entity is doing so on behalf of the Ontario Police. As you see, the people of the state, it's the prosecution of the Ontario Police Department, who in particular are being disbanded. Nathan Morgan, B. Hook, L. Martinez, and C. Torres, they're all going to federal prison. This kidnapping that they committed on May 29th, Jason Isaac Fields committed kidnapping, and so did Tracy Banks commit kidnapping, all right, as an entity that is not getting any of my property, and they're going to federal prison for what they already stole from me. Okay, it's currently, again, 10:43 p.m. and the entity is engaging what is maintaining helicopter activity while these stalkers are maintaining surveillance all around me. All of them obsessing over me, stalking me while I'm outside. That's mental illness. These psychopaths are mentally ill, and their mental illness is going to be at the forefront of their prosecution. It is what would inspire a so-called mother to gang stalk their own daughter in order to steal money. Okay, a high school graduate that got way beyond her britches, and she's going to prison for however much long she has to live. It is currently 10:43 p.m., and I'm referring to the sex offender Tracy Banks, license 9HUZ740, the pedophile that Jason Isaac Fields has been in a long-term sexual relationship and summoning demonic spirits with her. And those spirits are going right back to both of them. It's return to sender. It's currently 10:43 p.m. This is P.O.C. Ontario Police gang stalking by helicopter.
All right, as you heard, I did go into video, and you're seeing the immediacy of the demons of the stalkers of the Ontario Police, who have been maintaining prolonged helicopter activity, which is evidence of not going anywhere. But anything that they're doing, even while they're flying at a distance, this is surveillance. And so they're stalking while they're flying over my head. They're stalking while they're flying in circles around me. They're stalking while they're flying in relevant position, where you can see them in the sky space. You're looking at a stalker. They're doing so in concert with the people of the state who are group stalking with them. The entity's been maintaining intentionally and specifically helicopter activity. This is relevant to documented psychological torture that an entire police department is being prosecuted and disbanded for. They're engaging in what is surveillance of the evidence that's going to be submitted against them in federal court. They're engaging in gang stalking via helicopters, an unprecedented manner of targeting an American citizen relevant to the mental sickness of every demon, including Mike LORENZ, engaging in gang stalking in furtherance of murder and kidnapping with the people of the state like Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields. And the entity is doing so while they are aware of the fact that they're being documented as stalkers, because that's what you are when you're monitoring. You're a stalker and a demon-possessed one. They're also the same department monitoring my vagina in Starbucks, monitoring my vagina in Tracy Banks's apartment, monitoring my vagina at the Ovid Family Community Library. They're violent sex offenders who are obsessively stalking tonight, again, via helicopter. And as I'm speaking about it, that's not a coincidence in the specific environment. Fake moon over my head, multiple shadows of my person all over the ground, and the entity is flying over my head over the TABOR professional building where I'm located. Okay, those are stalkers. Those stalkers are being removed from law enforcement permanently. Okay, while they're aiding to and facilitating and incentivizing psychopathic behavior by a population who are out roaming the streets, stalking one woman together, obsessively monitoring me, like they do when you can see the faces of a bunch of sex offenders stalking in Starbucks. All right, they're not focused on coffee, they're focused on me. They're focused on my body movements, they're focused on what it is that I'm doing on my devices, they're focused on what it is that I say about them, they're focused on my vagina in the bathroom. Yeah, that's what they're doing. And that's what they're doing while I'm outside, and the entity is gang stalking in the same exact manner, the same exact elements of monitoring. And I am referring to the two demons that have a fraudulent marriage, and they have a secret fraudulent marriage, and they also have a secret fraudulent conservatorship. It's it's procured not only through fraud, but through criminal conduct. Literally, gang stalking was supposed to be the basis that the entity was also going to use to steal my property through a criminally procured conservatorship. This is relevant to the criminal activity that the Ontario Police Department is documented as engaging in. It's not just coming out of my mouth, oh, the police are targeting and I don't have any evidence of it. Years of evidence of targeting by corrupt law enforcement agencies, which is directly relevant to demons having fake marriages, demons having unlawful conservatorships that are invalid, while a government is seeking to steal property that was never told belongs to me, never told that it was in existence. And this is, again, a demon that's having sex with a homosexual, Tracy Banks, and a demon that's having sex with a pedophile, Jason Isaac Fields. The entities engaging in this conduct together as one, and their dysfunction, their mental illness, their corruption, their criminal activity, and their obsession with me is also relevant to what they all are, demons. And these demons conspired against me for money, and they conspired because this is what the United States government is doing throughout the country. And they didn't do it because they were lied to about my character. They didn't do it because they didn't know who I was and that they thought that, it was okay to do it to me because I had addictions and I was a bad person. No, the government that's been monitoring, keeping me under surveillance since I was born, knows exactly who I am. That's why they kept property that belongs to me a secret while engaging in gang stalking me, trying to discard me as a human being, and then run away with my property. This is what Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields in particular sought to do, and they've stolen property already. While I'm documenting the Ontario Police Department, I'm documenting this sex offender, Jason Isaac Fields, who is going to federal prison. He is still engaging in what is practicing ineffective witchcraft, which is relevant to ongoing abuse that the entity that is gang stalking me is sharing in, and they are going to be prosecuted as an entity. Jason Isaac Fields is also going to federal prison because he remains a part of the entity that is gang stalking me. There's no legitimate investigation of the federal government. He's a documented gang stalker, and no stalker is going to unilaterally remove themselves as a stalker and then choose to be, oh, I'm legitimate now and I'm not stalking you anymore, so I'm not a threat to you anymore, so I'm going to regard myself as being some sort of exception. This demon is delusional. Okay, once you commit any sort of sex offense against a victim, you don't get to name yourself as no longer being a threat to them. It's the same thing with being a stalker. Jason Isaac Fields, if he ever comes into my physical presence again outside of a court where he's going to be maintained a separation from me, he's going to be prosecuted. I'm gonna document him. I'm gonna embarrass him. I'm gonna put it on the internet just like I do every other demon. There is no friendship there. You're not a friend when you're having sex with my mother, plotting my murder. You're not a friend when you're stealing my property. You're not a friend when you're defaming my character, when you're targeting me with a bunch of sex offenders doing so in the middle of the night in helicopters, because that's what Jason Isaac Fields is doing, and that's what he's been doing for years. And this maniacal psychopath in particular, whose name I do know, he's going to federal prison. That's where he belongs. He is a threat to himself and the public. It is currently 10:49 p.m. This is documentation of the people surrounding on Fern Avenue with light activity. You can see on video the demons stalking and with light activity at Laurel and G Street. They're still there, stalking in the path, aiming light, monitoring, and the demons are patrolling, which is what you hear on G Street. And the Ontario Police is monitoring pursuant to that. And so is Tracy Banks. The rest of the population, which includes Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields, are going to federal prison. They're going to federal prison. It is currently 10:50 p.m. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, it is currently 10:53. Moments later, the entity is stalking right where the Ontario International Airport is stalking as well, over 325 West State Street. And the demons, who are the people of the state, are pacing. All right, this is, again, Tracy Banks is going to federal prison. This is the entity that's gang stalking, who she summoned on May 29th. She's been repeatedly kidnapping with the Ontario Police, and they're concentrating, just like they were last night, on El Morado, concentrating, flying over my head on those streets where I never go, flying over me repeatedly. And this is the entity providing ongoing evidence of stalking, engaging in gang stalking with the people of the state who are pacing. The pacing is the context of the engineered light, where they're maintaining activity via traffic. Driving on the street never creates sunlight inside of Starbucks or inside of any venue. They're stalking with light. You're witnessing it at nightfall. And that's the Ontario Police under the fake moon. This is the fake moon, where the entity's keeping the fake sun on this same block. It's not going anywhere. The fake sun here. You're recognizing the environment, and the entity's pacing back and forth, remaining ongoing helicopter activity for 30 minutes as I begin documenting it, then flying in my line of vision, doing so, going out of line of vision because I'm capturing video documentation. After I document that video, again, crossing path with helicopter activity. This is stalking. Every third party that's crossing path in a vehicle is stalking, and they're engaging in that. The entity is doing so while they're maintaining surveillance, like I'm documenting, in more than one aircraft. This is gang stalking that the entity is engaging in together, the people of the state with the state directly. All right, it is currently 10:54 p.m. This is the entity that is, Jason Isaac Fields is going to federal prison. So it's as plain as that. It is a straightforward prosecution. And this is why this is how the entity sought to steal property from me. They're clearly stalking and targeting. You're not taking any of my property, and you're going to federal prison for trying to murder and kidnap me, falsely depict my character over property that you're not even going to get. And you're still targeting with the demons of the Ontario Police Department, who continue to provide evidence against the demons inside of Starbucks that I'm documenting by name and license plate as they work at that venue. They're providing evidence against the demons that I'm documenting by name, including Tracy Banks, Eric Corey Spencer, Tommy Allen Banks, the demons that have engaged in kidnapping with the Ontario Police Department, the demons at Woodside Senior Apartments, kidnapping while they're gang stalking at that apartment complex. The entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct of providing evidence against Jason Isaac Fields, who are already on the record and engaging in criminal acts against me secretly while I'm being gang stalked the whole time. All right, gang stalking courts, gang stalking judges and attorneys. They're targeting with the Ontario Police, who's providing evidence against them, because this is the motive. Gang stalking is the evidence of what is necessarily federal prison, because the entity is only gang stalking in furtherance of murder and kidnapping, and they're not even getting my property. So you're looking at the Ontario Police, who has no legitimacy. You're in the specific environment. It's exposed surveillance. They're following me around all over the city on a daily basis, including under a whole fake sun. They're shown to be psychopaths, maniacal, and also obsessed with a delusion. And the delusion is gone. They're openly stalking in a manner that no police department should ever be engaging in targeting. And mentally ill psychopaths are doing so in that same specific environment, maintaining surveillance on foot, in vehicles, and where they live. That's why when I go and document them by license plate where they're living, who flies over my head? The same demons that you just saw focused on me. And their focus on me is proven through that specific environment. License 98UZ740, Tracy Banks does not have a legitimate leg to stand on. she's going to federal prison. Nathan Morgan is gang stalking, just like the Ontario Police Department are gang stalking on another night. The entity is gang stalking with B. Hook, C. Torres, and L. Martinez. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct while you're looking at the evidence of what is stalking with light, which again, very highly, vividly, demonstrated at Starbucks. That's just the latest of June. I have years of evidence of the people of the state, Starbucks, gang stalking. This is gang stalking that's happening outside, and the entity that's using helicopter activity to engage in it, that's the basis of disbanding those kidnappers who are gang stalking with the people of the state. And doing so in the middle of the night, engaging in violence against women while they know that this woman is documenting as well. That's relevant to mental illness. And the demons that are going to federal prison are some of the ones that I just mentioned. And it includes at the top of that list, again, Eric Corey Spencer, Tracy Banks, and Jason Isaac Fields. Those demons, they're going to prison. It is currently 10:57 p.m. and so are the kidnappers of the Ontario Police Department. Repeatedly stalking by helicopter, you document it because that's how you're going to prosecute the government. This is the United States government's unintelligent system, and you are witnessing it as the P.O.C. Reveals it, and then you're looking at the demons that are bringing destruction on themselves because they're going to prison. They're getting locked up for this. It is currently, again, 10:57 p.m. Stalking, just one demon after another stalking. And they're also stalking at 325 West G Street. They're stalking at 323 West G Street. They're stalking where they remain. They live in the specific environment where the government has no warrant or probable cause to engage in criminal surveillance with the people of the state, which includes where they live. All right, this is P.O.C. It is currently 10:58 p.m. and all the entity is doing is incriminating everyone who is being prosecuted. That's all they're doing, while they lack understanding regarding how they're going to be prosecuted under laws that exist and laws that shall come into existence to prosecute terrorism by sex offenders like this terrorist organization under the corrupt, this demon that's obsessed with my vagina, Mike Lorenz. Okay, he's losing his job. And so is Paul Leon, Michael Gerken, Alan D. WAPNER. These are demons at the heads of these corrupt departments that I'm documenting gang stalking me on a ceaseless basis in concert with the corrupt and depraved population, gang stalking a woman together. This is P.O.C. All right, I want to be clear. It's not just the people of the state in relevant position in their homes. 636 North Vine Avenue, 7-Eleven, they're gang stalking as well. Everybody that's going in and making purchases or stalking in the path, creating light activity in relevant position. This is big. That's just the big picture, and it's not just G Street. The entity is gang stalking as a statewide pattern of conduct. I happen to be in Ontario. I happen to be at the Support Professional Building, which is on G Street. But the pattern of conduct, those who are engaging in criminal monitoring, those who are engaging in what is monitoring federal stalking, keeping me under surveillance using communication devices, it exceeds G Street. It exceeds Vine Avenue. It exceeds what is Euclid, which is the radius, the immediate radius. And that's also relevant to why people like Jason Fields and the gang stalking judges that have engaged in defaming me on paper secretly behind my back about property that was never reported to me, while they're targeting with the imbeciles of the Ontario Police regarding why those judges are going to federal prison, regarding why Tracy Banks and Jason Isaac Fields are going to federal prison, regarding why the Ontario Police kidnapping serially are going to be disbanded and they're going to federal prison, as I've documented every kidnapper. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct with knowledge that it's also being documented. This is surveillance. So they're also keeping the evidence under surveillance, and these ignoramuses are always providing a daily dose of evidence to be published on the internet to expose corruption in California, about surveillance that the U.S. government is engaging in, and criminal monitoring targeting American citizens amongst this ongoing surveillance. Gang stalking in helicopters. Gang stalking as a whole police department. And they're psychopaths doing so under ridiculous environments and circumstances like a fake sun. They're not mentally well. They're also not mentally well when they are defendants in pending cases who are providing direct evidence where there's no mystery in the case whether the Ontario Police have been stalking me for years, have been engaged in kidnapping upon stalking me for years. And that's the significance of listening to yet another video, and you'll also see it on the website. This is the POC.wordpress.com, and on the YouTube channel, where I'm prosecuting the state of California. That's also simultaneously stealing my intellectual property, and that's also serving to prosecute the state of California that knows that it's being documented. It is currently 11:01 p.m. That's POC. All right, license 8EZW117. That is, again, license 8
8FZW117, excuse me, 8FZW117, and license 9AQC 823.